Good afternoon, and good morning, and good evening to those joining us virtually from all over the world. Welcome to the first annual Global Care in Space Challenge, hosted by Boryung in collaboration with Axiom Space and Starburst Aerospace. I'm Christina Yoon, Director for Boryung's new portfolio investment team. It's an honor to be here today, back at my alma mater, to be part of something so groundbreaking, bringing together healthcare and space to support sustained human life out in space. We have a curated group of startups today pitching their technological solutions to some of our most pressing issues that we face as we architect and build a future for humans in space. We will be selecting up to 10 of these companies for an equity investment of at least $100,000, as well as participation in a 13-week accelerator program. To help in the selection of these companies, we also have a panel of distinguished judges. Please hold your applause until I announce all of them. First, we have Tracy Naylor, Axiom Space. We have Rachel Clemens, Axiom Space. Next, we have Barry Finger, Paragon. Sunny Birch, Paragon. Danny Bogley, Space Pharma. Hak Soo Choi, Harvard Medical School. Hak Soon Yoon, Norfolk University. Kyu Sung Kim, Inha University. Stephanie Countryman, Bioserve. James Hurry, Translational Research Institute for Space Health. We also have several judges joining us virtually. Jancy McPhee, NASA Human Research Program. Ariel Ekbla, MIT. And lastly, Ben Rolnick, Stanford University. I will not be going through the entire agenda in the interest of time. However, I would invite everyone to please scan your QR codes at your tables or go to careinspace.com for the full schedule. We will have a number of speakers followed by 5 pitches. Then we'll have our keynote followed by 5 more pitches. Then we'll have our investor panel followed by the remainder of the pitches. Each pitch will be 5 minutes followed by 1 to 2 minutes Q&A from our judges. And we will wrap up the day with a few more guest appearances, followed by a networking reception at the Centennial Terrace. With that, I'd like to turn the stage over to CEO and Chairman of Boryung, the person who had the vision to make the Care in Space Challenge a reality, Jay Kim.
Can you hear me? Yep. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jay Kim, CEO and Chairman of Boryung. And first of all, thank you all for coming and participating in our first Care in Space Challenge. Um, Today is very special day for me for two reasons, one personal and for my country, South Korea. First is this is the first day that I met my wife 12 years ago. I hope my wife's watching this, but I guess she's not. That's the first reason. And the second is today at 4:08 p.m. Pacific time, Korea is launching our first lunar mission. And by the time we finish this challenge, we will know whether that launch has been successful or not. So I hope they will work out. But for that two reasons, this is very special day for us on top of our challenge. So before we start the challenge and the event, I wanted to briefly introduce who we are, how we got here, and why it is important that we are here today. Next slide, please. Yeah, so who we are. A lot of people ask me, who is Boryang? I'm sure you guys enjoyed the video at the beginning. And I saw that for the first time last night. And I saw many of space videos before, but with our company's name on it, there was something different. And this picture was taken in mid-1960s in South Korea. And the corner, the store at the corner that reads Boryang Pharmacy, that's where we began about more than 60 years ago. So our company began as a small pharmacy in South Korea. And back then, it's 1960, so South Korea barely got out of Korean War, and social infrastructure back then was very near to zero. And our founder, who is also my grandfather, had always thought that he wanted to be someone that matters to whoever he is nearby. So that was the legacy he left us to pursue continuously. And we have been successfully doing so in Korea with the pharmaceutical business in Korea. So starting from the pharmacy, nowadays we grew that to one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in Korea. That's one of our portfolio of Boryang. And that's not what I want to talk about. It's not about what we are, what we have been, and what we have become, but what the legacy of our founder is to become the one that matters to someone. And I personally wanted to take it into a greater scale to humanity. And I wanted to do that with my team. And we were always in a hunt to find the opportunity to achieve that. Next slide, please. And I'm sure everyone here knows what this is. I saw this video in 2018, I believe, while I was trying to find some forward-looking video to watch it with my son in the YouTube. So I typed in space, and then this popped up. So I heard about it, but I never saw it in video. And the moment that I saw this landing, this is the first SpaceX's the Falcon Heavy dual landing, which has been successful. So I saw this and I was like, is this real? And it was real for obvious reasons. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually possible. So this means more people can go to space cheaper and safer. So this was the trigger that got me interested in space. And following that, naturally, I had a chance to visit a NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston in 2019. They held a 4-day event there to tour their inside facilities and meet the people there. So during that time, I was able to speak to 4 former and then current astronauts and cosmonauts and NASA employees and some of the directors. And at some point, I felt like I had to ask a question. And coming from a pharmaceutical industry background, I asked something related to health. So I asked, can we send sick people to space? And surprisingly, he didn't even hesitate. And he answered, we don't know because we haven't done it yet. And that was it. I thought that's the thing that we should do to make us matter to humanity. Next slide, please. And again, I'm sure you guys already seen this picture over and over. This is the picture of a region in Carina Nebula. I personally do not understand what that means, but the first moment that I saw, I was like, wow. And I'm sure everyone had a similar feeling when watching this. And the interesting thing for this, for me personally, was that this picture of magnitude should be charged, but instead it was for free. And I'm pretty sure NASA knows that this is for humanity. That's why it's for everyone. And when the day NASA released this picture to the public, NASA Commissioner Bill Nelson said this, rockets runs on fuel, and NASA runs on inspirations. And I personally believe that more of these kind of inspirations will just come continuously towards us. And a couple of days ago, the picture from James Webb Space Telescope showed another pictures of just fabulous part of the space, and that was just another proof of another inspiration. And that inspiration will lead more and more people to space, and that's why we're here. We need to be ready to send people to space safely. So that's it. That's why we're here. And that's what All Care in Space is all about. So I'm really glad that I can say this in front of all of you. And I'm really thankful for all the teams and our partners, Axiom and Starburst, and our judges for allowing me to say this to you in public. And I'm already excited for the second challenge. So please enjoy the first one, and thank you.
Next, we have Cam Ghaffarian, Executive Chairman of Axiom Space.
Jay, thanks so much. I am delighted to be here in partnership with Boryong and also Starburst Aerospace. As I was thinking about what to show you, actually, I decided to show you something the last few minutes. And I think it comes for the word that Jay used, inspire. The word inspire means to be in spirit. Means to be out of your mind. It means to be connected to something larger than yourself, okay? So I want to show you a quick video. This is a video that was created by an organization I founded in 2019. It's a nonprofit organization called Limitless Space Institute, with the 3 pillars as our mission: to inspire, to educate, and to do research and development for human interstellar travel. So I'll show you this video and I'll come right back.
As incredible as it may seem, there will be a time, and it may be closer than you think, when we live on other worlds. The moon, Mars, and in the space between. And when that day comes, just as always, our children will look with curiosity across these new horizons, with a desire to go further and to explore what lies beyond. But beyond Mars, the distances between worlds grow immensely, even within our own solar system, and become truly vast in between stars. If we ever want to reach out across these distances, we need to learn how to go fast. Using our current knowledge of physics and engineering, we could build nuclear locomotives to take humans to all the worlds in our solar system. But a starship powered with a nuclear heart aimed for even our closest star, Proxima Centauri, would have to harbor hundreds of generations of people, all living their entire lives aboard before reaching its destination 4¼ light years away. It would take 2 years just to reach the orbit of Saturn, and another 2,000 years to reach Proxima Centauri. We need to be able to go faster. With our current knowledge of physics, but with engineering we have yet to develop, we can imagine a propulsion system with the sun for a heart, a fusion engine that could accelerate a starship up to 5% of the speed of light. This ship could cross the orbit of Saturn in 6 months and reach Proxima Centauri in just over a century. But if we want to traverse interstellar distances in less than a human lifetime, we have to go incredibly fast. The universe has shown us that this can be done by altering the scale of space itself. And we are working to develop new understandings of physics to learn how this might be controlled. If we could construct a starship with a propulsion system that decreases space in front of it and expands space behind it, this ship could cross enormous distances effectively faster than the speed of light. Such a ship would reach from Mars to Saturn in just a matter of minutes and be able to reach Proxima Centauri in less than 6 months. From there are no limits to where we could go. Perhaps one day, humanity will look up at an alien night sky and strain to find the pale yellow dot that is our sun, our home, and know for the first time, as we look back on ourselves, that we are not alone in the universe. This journey starts today.
If you all believe that the human destiny is to go to other stars, like I believe, and we put that as our destination, and you say this is our to-be state, then Confucius says the journey 1,000 miles starts with the first step. You got to start to be able to be at Leo, low Earth orbit, to be at Lagrange point, to go to Moon, Mars, and beyond. Okay, so I want to talk about Axiom Space. I founded Axiom Space with Michael Safradini with a vision of building a city in space in Leo. When I say city, I don't mean just a small place. I mean a place that you can actually live, that has gravity, artificial gravity, as well as microgravity, a place that kids can go to school, people can go to work, from the artificial gravity to microgravity, a place that there are laboratories and gymnasiums and everything else that you will see in space. Now, in order to get there, first we need to build our first module that we're working on and will be launched in 2024, that will connect to the current ISS, and we will work collaboratively with International Space Station until 2028 to 2030, where we will separate, and it forms the basis of the first private commercial space station. So now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. The purpose of this is not only take professional astronauts and private astronauts to space. So some of you might have seen AX-1 mission in April, where we took 3 private astronauts plus our commander to space successfully and returned, which I believe was a new era in human space exploration, but also to enable new technologies that can flourish in space. Technologies like pharmaceutical, bioscience, be more specific, like being able to actually print corneas, print retinas in space, upload 3D print satellites in orbit and launching it from space, so you don't have to worry about gravity. Things like data center in space, cloud in space, satellite refueling, satellite repair, to just name a few. So pharmaceutical and bioscience and life science is something that is incredible. That's why I'm so delighted to be here and work with all of you in terms of making that a reality in space. Now, lots of people talk about, well, why go to do that in space? Microgravity provides an environment where we can do things that we cannot do on the surface of the Earth, okay? I just want to give you one quick example. The organization that actually developed the PCR test for COVID, Meridian Health in New Jersey, New York, we're going to do an experiment with them where we're going to actually study anti-aging. We know when we go to space that the aging gets accelerated very slightly. So the idea is, if we know that gets accelerated very slightly, then we can research as to whether we can slow it down or even reverse it. Now, we also know that the aging has something to do with T cells, which is similar to cancer, which has something to do with T cells. Could just imagine this possibility that we might cure cancer or slow aging or reverse it from space. And this is just, you know, to just scratch the surface. We haven't even imagined all the possibilities that exist in space. So I am delighted to be here with the rest of you to really start this CIS challenge as the first one, along with Boryong and everybody else. And just the beginning. And may the force be with you. Thank you.
Next, we have James Hurry, Deputy Director and CIO of Trish.
Hello, and very glad to be here today. And I'm actually going to build off of some of what Cam just said. So just as a little bit of background, I work for a group called the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, which is a mouthful. But we are focused on space health, space medicine, space research. And that means that everyone in this room and everybody watching this presentation are our kind of people. First of all, we're very excited that this type of thing exists and that all of you are interested. Most folks, when they start to talk about space, focus on things like communications, satellites, propulsion. But we're focusing on the people that will go, the people that will help everyone go, and the people that might live and thrive in the future. So we're excited to see the companies and to go from here into wherever we may go next. So just a little bit of context. Space is the harshest of environments. We were not built to live there. We are built to live here in Spaceship Earth. So in order to get there and to thrive, we will need to overcome many challenges, not just space-based challenges, but vehicle challenges, mission challenges, a number of environments that are not conducive to human life or thriving in those environments. And so we focus on how we engage with the Human Research Program at Johnson Space Center and all of their paths to risk reduction. And we work on basically the overall human environment in space. And since space is so different from spaceship Earth, it affects every part of us, which means there's a lot to do, by the way. It means that everyone here has probably some way to contribute that can make this possible, but there's a lot to do. And it happens at different time frames. So for instance, when you first get there, you may feel space motion sickness or sensory motor effects. You then may start to feel the effects on cardiovascular systems or bone systems or muscular systems. And then of course you get the aspect of the accumulation of radiation, all things that have different effects. And it's somewhat cumulative in aspects like radiation. So for instance, here on Earth in Houston, where I'm from, you get 1 millisievert a year. In Denver, you get more. But if you're going to go to the ISS, the moon, or interplanetary space, you will get quite a bit more. And it's expected that on the mission to Mars, they're going to have a full sievert. And that's basically what you expect an entire astronaut's career to amount to, which is difficult because they're going to need to prove they can do it before they get there. So that's going to build up, meaning this is a concern. You also have things like space motion sickness, an aspect that affects how you orient in a zero or microgravity environment, and also affects lunar gravity, Mars gravity. How do you actually function when you're there? And how do you respond to the environment? We're actually funding a PI that appears to be able to actually predict who will have effects of space motion sickness. And we can actually then possibly give that information pre-flight so that either an astronaut or a commercial flyer will be able to actually understand whether they're going to be heavily debilitated or not. And then from there, when you have that knowledge, you can start to build things like countermeasures, which are all the important parts of how we actually overcome these challenges. We focus on the physiological effects, the psychological effects, and the cognitive effects. Together, they overlap and make a healthy human. You see these aspects that are the major risks associated with deep space exploration: distance from Earth, hostile closed environments, isolation and confinement, radiation effects, altered gravity fields. These are the reality of space. And what we try to do is find out how they overlap with the needs of Earth. We have needs in mental health that are very obvious. And you can use space as an environment to actually test and learn and actually help the people on Earth for things like stressors, things like sleep. You get into things like bone health and heart health, things that are obviously important here on Earth. And then how can you learn in space? How can you deconstruct the discussion so that you learn and apply here on Earth? You get into autonomous healthcare. When you get into space, we're going to need the smartest tools. We're going to need tools that can operate when the human's incapacitated. It's not that different than low resource environment healthcare here on Earth, when you don't have an ER anywhere near you, but you still have needs. So how do we learn from space and apply them back to Earth? And every one of the companies here that are competing have the potential to find that primary and secondary market. These are the areas of opportunity. You have low Earth orbit. You have the International Space Station, free flyer missions such as the Axiom 1 and Axiom 2 flights. Things that are great environments for us to do some amount of learning over a 3 or 7 day mission or something, maybe up to 14 days. You get into the lunar vicinity and you're going to get a different mission. You're going to get something that might take up to 20 days. Over that period of time, you still have the ability to come back, but you still have minimal mass, power, and volume. You still have constraints. When you get into something like a Mars discussion, you have even less mass, power, and volume. You have to have autonomous systems. You have to have the ability to overcome unknowns. And you don't have the ability to turn around and come back. Unfortunately, you have to be able to take care of yourself, diagnose and treat anything that happens. And so each of these areas actually provide constraints. Those constraints are ways that we learn and we challenge ourselves to be better. And the companies that are competing today absolutely have embraced that challenge, and Starburst, Boryung, and Axiom are driving forward the ability for us to actually adjust and learn. And for that, each one of these opportunities this year and the next are vital for us to understand. And this is where we think the opportunity lies. If you look back over whatever your definition of going into space is, we have something like 500 to 600 people that have gone to space. And there have been some aspect of diversity and some aspect of change over time. But the opportunity is that in the next 20 years, we fully expect a vast difference in the participation of those going to space, an amplification, more participants, more in, as we say, more folks that are actually participating in research and that we can learn from. And there's the opportunity. It is an opportunity for companies to meet the challenge. It's an opportunity for groups like Axiom to continue to lead. It's an opportunity for all of us here to be able to support that and to help drive that forward. So just a little plug for us. We do have what's called the Expand program, where we provide funding across a wide variety of flights, including things like the Axiom flights. And we are interested in knowledge and raising all boats. Again, if you're here, your family, and we're interested in finding out how we can help, or how we can help drive forward the discussion around how we get, those that are going to space. Also, how we get possibly us, the people in the room, going to space, or our friends and family, or someday even the option to not necessarily return and maybe stay in space and thrive in space. And the first steps begin with places like here. So from here on out, I think we have the companies coming next, but we're very excited to be here. We're very excited to get started, and thank you all so much. And we look forward, if there's any way that, that we can build off of today, we look forward to it. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite to the stage Roger Diaz, co-founder of X-Story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roger Diaz, and I'm very happy to be here today. I'm the co-founder of X-Story, and at X-Story, our mission is to enhance human performance through the use of extended reality and interactive storytelling. The problem we are addressing at X-Story is related to the burden of mental health and well-being issues, and the impact of these issues on people's lives here on Earth, but also in space. In space, astronauts and other space travelers are at a higher risk of behavioral health issues, mainly related to isolation, confinement, and other stressors, also similar to some conditions here on Earth. During space travel, emotional and mood disorders and other behavioral issues may impair crew performance and impact the mission success. The psychological effects of space travel will not be only present during flight, during missions, but also upon return to Earth, because many of these conditions are chronic, like PTSD and chronic stress. When we take a look on Earth, right, we know, unfortunately, that we live a mental health crisis, and the global burden of mental health share some of the same or similar conditions that we are trying to address when we think about the mental health and well-being of astronauts and other space travelers. So it's very interesting and exciting to develop new solutions that can tackle both settings, space and Earth, but with a common and so important issue like mental health. In space, this issue is so important, right, that between the 23 different risks from the NASA Human Research Roadmap that basically dictates everything that is recommended for research and developing of mitigation strategies, the risk of cognitive, behavioral, and psychiatry conditions is one of those. So that's already recognized very well for the past decades. On Earth, I don't need to say, right, this is a part of our lives and globally. Only in the West, it's estimated that 1 in 5 Americans suffer from any type of mental health issue or condition. And unfortunately, this rate is only increasing, most of them accelerated by the pandemic. When I think about the market of behavioral health solutions, right, it's really already a huge market and a great opportunity with a huge demand for solutions, innovative solutions that can effectively treat patients and other people and improve their mental health, therefore improving their performance at work, or in case in the space, their performance during space missions. Our team at X-Story is a multidisciplinary team composed by experts from different backgrounds, different but complementary backgrounds, including medicine, computer science, engineering, movie production, and storytelling. In addition to me, we have Madi Ebinelli, who is the co-founder of X-Story and currently a postdoc at Harvard Medical School. He is a XR developer. Rodrigo Cerqueira, who is a serial entrepreneur and an executive producer and VR film director. He has directed one of the first VR films 1 decade ago. and Esan, who is also our co-founder and a former XR engineer for Apple, also a computer science. And we bring together this complementary team from different backgrounds to create really engaging and immersive extended reality stories that can be used for learning, training, but also for treating mental health and improving well-being. We were born in a research lab at Harvard Medical School and Mass General Brigham. We started our journey by doing customer discovery. We were happy to be funded by the National Science Foundation to focus on the customers and the potential customers. And before start developing technology, think about what the customers need, what are the customer segments, and how we can fit what they need. And we're very happy to conduct more than 150 interviews, trying to understand better. Part of our solution involves the creation of highly realistic virtual scenarios and these avatars that are 3D volumetric videos. We are funded by Trish to develop some of this in the lab, also by the DoD to develop highly engaging 3D scenarios using volumetric capture for military personnel to train emergency care in austere environments. This is in the lab. And now we are developing this XR web-based platform to really create this virtual well-being coach that can help astronauts and also people here on Earth. So finally, this is our roadmap, and we are here just finishing our MVP the next month and creating a few demos as use case. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Roger. I'd like to open the floor up to the judges for Q&A. What is the first question? Okay.
Sorry, really nice presentation. Can you please elaborate a little bit more about the solution? Is it like personalized based, or it's like a general, do you have like several scenarios or?
Absolutely. So the core of our solution is really a XR streaming platform. So it's a cloud-based streaming platform that can stream XR scenarios for whatever device the user have. So it can be like a cell phone or a VR headset, but also their computer. And that's going to be via cloud-based. And the second one is really how we create this interactive. So we have a branch narrative engine that we can create an interactive way that the user is in the center of the experience. You can make a decision and see what happened, and then you can come back and make a different decision. And that's the core of our engine in terms of solution. Now, the content, we can create content for mental health, for training, it's varied.
Thank you.
That you found out from your customer discovery?
Yeah, absolutely. So we found several things, and we use that, for example, to validate some of our hypotheses in our business model. But the main thing we found is that they're not too concerned about the realism of these like avatars. They are more interested about getting feedback from those scenarios and seeing how they're doing. And having a more personalized experience. So that was one of the main issues we found, because we're investing a lot of like time developing like highly realistic experience, but that was not the main issues that the customer needed or care. They care more about, for example, getting feedback and a personalized experience. And we were able, for example, to pivot some of the development to address that issue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to invite to the stage Kay Olmstead, CEO of Nano Pharma Solutions.
Hi. When I was a little girl, I used to go to Poryomnyaku with my mom, who was Yaksa in Seoul. Today, I'm a CEO and founder of Nano Pharma Solutions, where our mission is to make good drugs great. We do this by improving the solubility of drugs. Do you know 1 in 3 drugs fail phase 1 clinical trial? Do you know why? It's because the drug's not soluble. If the drug's not soluble, it cannot get into our body and it doesn't really absorb. We make these drugs soluble so we can make a safer, better by improving bioavailability of the drugs. We do this in using nanotransformer technology. In this vacuum chamber here we invented, we evaporate the drugs using physical vapor deposition technology originally developed by NASA. Using this very high vacuum, we evaporate the drugs into the gas phase and capture it back as a nanoparticles. And as the size gets to the nanomillimeters, the drug solubility goes up and hence the bioavailability. We don't use any chemicals to generate the nanoparticles of drugs. It's just phase transfer, it's physics. As a proof of concept, we compared our nano cannabidiols to the crystalline form in animal PK studies. As you can see in these graphs, in blood level, the cannabidiols level was 3.5 times more, and in brain, it's more than 5 times AUC compared to crystalline CBD. Too many life-saving drugs are coming out as IV infusion because of the drug's insolubility. It's much easier to put insoluble drugs into the huge bag of IV infusion instead of making them into portable forms or pills or self-administered dosage forms. We want to change this. In low resource areas like third world countries or in space or rural Alaskas, there's no infusion centers readily available. By making these IV drugs into portable form, we can put drugs into everybody's hands and serving the people in space or our troops who are deployed in Somalia's or who knows where, or people who go to space. For example, remdesivir is today approved as a COVID therapy. It comes in an IV infusion. And only the really sick people who hospitalized in can get this treatment because it's available only by infusion. And we are changing this by making it portable inhaler formulation. And making drugs portable, making IV drugs portable is our mission. Our battle cry is beyond the needle. And remdesivir is only the beginning. The nanomedicine market is huge. It's expected to grow to $70 billion in 2026. And we think our grab is $200 million in 2030. And our revenue model is built on project-based, and it's heavily levied in the later stage with licensing fee. And projected revenue is upward of $80 million in 5 years. We have received NSF SBIR grant, and we are currently in SBIR phase 2 due diligence stage. And we raised $1.3 million so far, and we are currently on the seed stage, seed round for priced round for $2 million to get to the next inflection point, which is a GMP manufacturing, will happen in 2023. Our 5-year plan is to get to the GMP stage next year so we can make clinical trial materials and get our remdesivir dry powder inhalers compared with the remdesivir infusion. And the rest will be more IV drugs into portable form. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. I'd like to open the floor to the judges for Q&A.
Great job. I missed made a point, but why IV? Why intravenous injection rather than oral or nebulizer or different technology?
infusions are distributed by infusion center, and it's not portable, and you cannot give it to astronauts unless your space station has infusion center and the caregivers who come with it. And by giving this as a dry powder inhaler, you can put it in the pocket and you can put it in the readiness kit. And not only, this is just a wide spectrum antiviral remedy, but there are a lot of other drugs that come in IV infusion just because of solubility issues, not because it has to be IV. And we are planning to change that at least one drug a year. That's our plan. Yes. I partner with my friend from Yonsei University, who I went to school with. He's went to material science. I went to pharmaceutical science. He's the nano expert, and he and I put together our ideas of material science and pharmaceutical science and came up with this invention. And we also have a full-time CFO and 2 scientists in San Diego site. And we have a clinical trial, clinical experts, regulatory experts from pharmacology and particle science in our scientific advisory board.
We have one more question.
Yes, okay. I might miss your explanation, but is there any particular targeted disease or the application of your drug?
No, we can apply this to every small molecules, and that melts below 270 degrees. That's about 70 to 80% of every drugs. So we are not limited to disease areas, but oncology, 90% of them come in IV infusion because there is a cancer center in every hospital, and there is a synergy between infusion center and the pharmaceutical companies.
Danny, you have a final question.
Hi, thank you. Nice presentation. I was wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more about the go-to-market strategy, how you see that.
We are in the revenue stage
You go to
today.
space for this specific product. You plan to go to space.
Oh, the
like,
remdesivir.
how much money do you need for that?
We plan to do the phase 1 bioequivalency test and partner with a big pharma like Gilead, who is the innovator of the remdesivir and who cannot make it into the dry powder inhaler. And like remdesivir with other candidates, we plan to do the co-development with a big pharma. We're a small technology company. We have a great technology, but we don't plan to do everything, including sales.
Thank you. That's all the time we have.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Shajal Ghoshal, CEO of Advanced Telesensors.
And good afternoon. So I'm the CEO of Advanced Telesensors, which has built a contactless cardiac monitor. We think it has good applications for space health. It's a core technology that is built on a radar-based platform and can track your heart rate, respiratory rate, heart rate variability, and motion without you wearing a wearable. So nothing on the body itself. So today, there's a large amount of wearables and things in the market that we've all seen. The biggest problem with wearables is that they need to be worn. In some particular applications, this is not always easy. One example is in the senior community, which is one of the researches we had done, 43% of the seniors would stop wearing the wearables after a year. And the reason for this is just the overall maintenance required for wearables because they're battery powered, they need to be charged, they need to be remembered. If they are not, especially when you're in space, this could create errors and risks that get amplified. The second area is patches. This is old ECG technology where it's physically connected to the human body. There's a lot of Holter type products that are out in the market. They generally will do some amount of real-time type of work, but mostly they're limited and they can be disconnected, creating another error state. So what we have with cardio is a contactless radar heart sound monitor. The technology is based on radar and was originally developed at NASA here in Pasadena. It's a micro Doppler sensor, senses heart rate, breath rate, and monitors. So when we go to space, as someone had already talked about earlier, there are a lot of changes to the human body. The zero gravity impacts can affect the physiology and cardiology, and unusual things can affect both your behavioral state and your cardiology. So what we need for space management is the ability to have 24/7 monitoring of the cardiac system so we can start to get predictions of what's happening to the person. The second thing we need to do is be able to get stress management understood using heart rate variability. And the third piece is to be able to do biomechanics with our motion sensing that can create the information that we need in the case of injury. So all this can be done with our device, which is an example of using it in a space station continuously. So how does the device work? It's fundamentally a radar, currently uses automotive radar technology that you see in every single car today. It launches a beam, the body passively reflects the beam back, and then we use cardiac signal processing, which is detection and extraction of the cardiac signal through various mechanisms to give us the heart rate, respiratory rate, and motion information. So as a background, who we are, this technology was originally, as I said, developed at Pasadena at the NASA Jet Propulsion Labs. They're the ones who inspired it. It is easy to use. It's generally very robust since it's not sitting on the person, it mounts to the wall. It's got a decade worth of development on the algorithms, which I think is very significant in terms of trying to make sure that you are picking out the right things. And its performance has been validated against the gold standard of ECG, which we can hit about ±2 beats per minute accuracy with heart rate. Our team consists of Steve Monacos, who is with JPL. He's the one who developed a lot of the algorithms. John Armstrong, who's worked on a lot of the radio frequency antenna part of the design. And Eric Farrell, who's a medical doctor, who's our chief medical officer and also at UCLA's Trauma Center. And Jason Zagrosky, who's in Texas as the arrhythmia specialist. So we have a really interesting team of both the technology piece and the medical piece, because as technologists, we don't always understand medicine to this degree of detail. So this is a really good team to put together. So far, we've raised $5 million, and we have a product that we have launched is in the general wellness space. It's available today. And our next step is to raise another 4 million, where we want to go after FDA compliant applications, and that will take us into a broader set of fields. Thank you. As an example, this is the size of the device that we have. It's about a 3x3-inch device that mounts on the wall. Yeah.
Yes, Roger.
You over here. Hey, can you tell us how you differentiate between multiple individuals in the same location?
Excellent idea. At the current point, our focus has been on a single individual within a field of view. Even though a radar is a directional radar, so it covers only a 10-foot range around the individual. And our next part of the game, we will do beamforming and be able to sweep across the room and individually pick out individuals with their own cardiac signature and detect that.
What could be the competing technology compared to yours? Sometimes the microphone, some sound, the sensing can be used for those type of heart rate monitoring. So, I mean, what could be the competing? I mean, what could be the technology, the effectiveness or the?
Yeah, the question is
compared to I know some of the microphone technology.
Right.
Yeah, how that is different from whether how this is better than.
That's correct. So, in one way of looking at this is it is a remote stethoscope. So you normally have a stethoscope on a person and you detect his vibrations physically through a resonant cavity. What this does is the radar pulse detects it and we detect the sound that is over there. And that's what we're demodulating and providing as information. Because the sound is repetitive, is a heart rate, it is an easier problem to solve than any random sort of information. Versus other technologies like optical technologies are used to detect that. They have to be strapped to the person. And as I said, with ECG, you have to have a physical connection.
Thank you, Gashal. That's all the time we have.
Okay.
Next, I'd like to invite Montana Bilger, co-founder of Deep Space Biology.
Hi, I'm Montana Bilger, the CEO and one of the 3 co-founders of Deep Space Biology. I hope you're strapped in because this presentation is going to be out of this world. At Deep Space Biology, we develop innovative solutions for safe space exploration. With the increased interest of going to space with space travel and space tourism, there still remains one big problem. Space is pretty dangerous. The human biological limit is 12.5 days in deep space before the onset of serious biological changes. This limit is not enough to safely navigate the planned Moon and Mars missions within the next 10 years. Before we can solve the problem of biology limitations, however, we first have to understand the problem at a deep level. This is where the field of space biology comes in. Unfortunately, current space biology methods are expensive, time-consuming, and struggle to aggregate crucial siloed data. While attending the Masters of Analytics program at Georgia Tech, the other co-founders and I saw this problem in space biology, and working on a group project, we wanted to fix it. So we did what any logical person would do. We spam emailed a bunch of NASA scientists at Gene Lab. We ended up getting an automatic out-of-office email reply with a Zoom link in it. So we invited ourselves to a NASA AI for Life in Space committee meeting where we pitched our project. And for the last 15 months, we've been working side by side with NASA Gene Lab to help fill the gaps in space biology. How do we fill those gaps exactly though? Well, we developed a new AI-driven platform called Mouse, which can reduce biology research times from years to minutes and can save organizations millions of dollars a year. You might be asking yourself, what's going on with this flashing sphere on the screen? Well, that's a great question. This is our platform in action, modeling all of the biological craziness happening at the gene level in space. As I mentioned earlier, before we can start to solve the biology limitation of space, we first have to understand what's going on. And this is where Mouse shines. By connecting siloed biological data and applying proprietary machine learning algorithms, Mouse can accurately predict biological changes in space and help save human lives in space. We have a functioning MVP that's been tested with numerous NASA Gene Lab experiments. Essentially, our platform can take any stressor or exposure and produce an expected outcome. It has applications for not only deep space travel, but low Earth orbit missions, airline travel, toxicological and pharmacological applications as well, among many others. Mouse also has incredible traction so far, with amazing partners like NASA Gene Lab, Georgia Tech, Neo4j, and Voxiva, among others listed here. But you don't care just about the product though. You care about the team behind the product. Do they have the passion, the grit, and the skill set to deliver? Our experienced and highly qualified team most definitely does. We all have masters in analytics from Georgia Tech. I myself have a bachelor's in physics from West Point. I'm a US Army veteran and have a US Army Space Enabler certification. I've worked as a data scientist at Nike and also a Series E funded tech startup. Our chief bioinformatics officer, Michael, has a PhD from Leiden University in molecular biology. He was a science research specialist at Harvard Medical School. He's won many awards in aging, age-related diseases, and toxicology. He co-developed the first transgenic mouse model for mutation analysis, and he started his own biology company aimed at validating and developing innovative solutions for in vitro and in vivo mutagenesis testing and toxicological risk assessment. It's a mouthful. And lastly, our COO, Guillermo. He has a master's in analytics as well. He has a bachelor's in chemistry. He's actually a member of the NASA AI for Life in Space Committee, the same one that we barged in on 15 months ago. And he co-founded his own analytics company the year 2000 and has deployed analytics health solutions in over 19 countries. We believe in safe space exploration. So we develop innovative AI solutions to make it happen. We're currently looking for partners who want to shoot for the moon and be among the stars. Thank you.
Any questions from the judges?
Hi, thank you for the nice presentation. Just one question regarding to the AI approach. So where do you get like all of this data from? So you need like a data set, right, to build the platform. So what is your reference data?
It's from NASA Gene Lab.
Okay.
We've been meeting with them on a bi-weekly basis for the last 15 months, co-developing this platform.
And how can you validate the data? When you get that with them, how you can validate?
Yeah, so in the combination of not only the actual experiments they've performed in space with the real reactions, we also have a knowledge graph that consolidates all of the current medical publications out there to validate the results.
Can you elaborate on your commercialization plan?
Yes, so as a biology research tool, currently NASA is our big target because we have already a really good relationship with them, but it doesn't just stop here. Because our platform can be changed to take any external stressor like radiation, microgravity, you name it, and produce an expected outcome. It can be applied to medicines ingested by the body, any sort of exposure that anyone can have. So it's not just space biology, even though there's a direct correlation right now to space biology.
So I know you're focused on Gene Lab and have a good relationship there. There are actually a number of other institutions that are doing various experiments in space that may be of interest. Do you have a plan for engaging other sources of data? Platforms like yours are most robust when you have many, many different sources that can all build upon themselves. Do you have a plan for that in the future?
Yes, we do. So right now, because the Gene Lab data is easily accessible, that's what we've built it on, but we have a plan to incorporate as much data as possible. And because our platform is modular, you can impute new data and it can give you updated results from that.
Thank you, Montana. That's all the time
Thank
we've
you.
got. Next, we have Gabriel Punzlan, co-founder and CEO of IVOS Medical.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here and participating in the CIS Challenge. My name is Gabriel Punzlan, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of IVOS Medical. At IVOS Medical, we're creating a better intubation device for emergent intubations in space. So space exploration is booming. We're going back to the moon and beyond. And by we, I mean humankind. As astronauts get further and further away from Earth, they're going to come across potential medical emergencies that they will have to take care of. As these missions get further, medical support will be less available. So they have to function autonomously, independently, and efficiently to not jeopardize their mission and or the safety of their crew. NASA astronauts are normally of superior health before they go to space. But as we open up space to private and commercialized companies, is the same bar of health going to still be there? Also, if there's a medical emergency in space, is the person who has to respond to that medical emergency the best one available to save the life of his fellow astronaut? So I'm a clinician in the Department of Anesthesiology at UCI Medical Center. So I've had my fair share of emergent intubations, difficult intubations, and I can say that for most people intubating in emergency, a video laryngoscope will be the first device picked up. Direct laryngoscopy, the traditional way, takes a lot of skill to practice. With video laryngoscopy, the Achilles heel is if anything blocks the camera optics, you're not able to accurately put the breathing tube in the right spot. Astronauts and visitors will most likely be considered full stomachs, which means if there's an emergency, gastric contents from the stomach could potentially go into the mouth and block your view. In space, the microgravity of fluids and the coalescing of fluids work much differently than terrestrially. So that could also offer another problem. Research has shown that by your third intubation attempt, your failure rate goes up tremendously. So we've developed the IVOS BOSS G4, and the G stands for glide scope because we've designed it around the glide. It is a 3D printed video laryngoscope sleeve developed at UC Irvine Medical Center, currently funded through an SBIR Phase 1 grant that we're in. Our device combines multiple features to offer increased first pass success. We achieve this through oxygen that blows across the window and provides continuous oxygenation as well to a non-breathing patient. We've included also a suction capability that can remove oropharyngeal or fluids from the oropharyngeal space. And all of this from our early study has shown that it is statistically significantly faster based on our study results versus the traditional glide scope that's being used in most of the systems today. The laryngoscope device market is growing. It's projected to globally $1.3 billion by 2028. Our team is comprised of subject matter experts in the airway space. Michael Magnani is an experienced life science executive and entrepreneur. And Blake Sama is a highly experienced biomedical engineer. Why are we here today? So we're here to compete for acceptance into the aerospace, into Starburst Aerospace Accelerator. We would like to be help with mentorship, connections with key opinion leaders in the space tech arena, also the financial investment so that we can create our device for the future explorers of tomorrow so that they can save lives and achieve mission success. So a quick summary, more people are traveling to space, which means the potential for more emergencies. Emergency intubation is difficult, even for those who are experienced. Video laryngoscopy will probably be the first line, and the device is 3D printed, so it can potentially be printed anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor for any questions from the judges. Yes, Tracy.
So the beautiful thing about our study is we actually incorporated different skill sets of people to test our device in our aspiration mannequin. And we've actually had interns who had one intubation attempt on a mannequin be able to perform at a very fast pace. So it was one intubation with a mannequin.
Actually, for this application, to develop this completely, you need to test this one in the microgravity.
Correct.
So, do you have a plan for that?
Yes. So currently, this is printed with the way that the resin's printed on with gravity. We were looking at opportunities where we can learn on how to print this kind of device in microgravity type environments. And so that's why we actually applied for this accelerator to look at how to get these experiments into space.
This should be tested for human in microgravity too, right?
Correct. So there has been no intubation in space or emergent intubation in space. We're currently, we believe after looking through the FDA consultants that we've that we're a 510K class 1 device. So we're looking to eventually move to human trials in the future. But currently we're testing it in mannequins.
Okay.
Yes.
Just one question. I know that intubation, the main problem with that is that you don't always go to the lungs, right? So if I understand correctly, you don't really need the video, any ultrasound for that. So how can you make sure that you go to the lungs and not to the other tube?
So our system with the oxygen and suction offer clarity so that you actually see the target and where you put the tube in. So
you need to see with your own eyes without any external.
Through a video system, camera optics. So through the camera optics, the problem is if bodily fluids block the camera optics, it's very difficult to see. So if you blindly intubate, you can go into the esophagus. So our system helps promote clarity continuously for intubation.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to do a quick check for any questions from the virtual judges. Okay, we will move on then. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Next, we have our keynote speaker, Smith Johnson, Chief Medical Officer of Axiom Space, on the future of space health.
Hello, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. I can't carry a mic and talk and chew gum and point at the same time. I'm sorry, I got a lot of slides to go through, and it's really great to be here. I'm going to talk about the future of space. I'm going to expound a little bit on what James did. And I'm just so honored to be here. This is so exciting. And care in space is a great thing. And we all care about space because we all care about our planet. And that's why we're all here. Everything, my whole take in my career, my life is everything we learn up in space, we apply to folks here on the ground. And that's why I love the care in space, because we all care. And I'm going to talk about terrestrial applications for human health, performance, and longevity with our astronauts. And it's important to understand that we have low Earth orbit that we're going to, I'm going to speak mostly about today and my experience of that, my experience of being at the South Pole on Earth, and how we're going to go to Moon and Mars and asteroids, and what it's going to take to do that, and present you some clinical problems and conundrums that we can all talk about and deal with. This is my disclosure form. I'm a doc, and usually when I talk, I tell folks what my biases are. And I'm on the aerospace medical, I'm on the faculty at UTMB Galveston that does polar medicine program and aerospace medicine. I've spent 30 years at NASA and other institutions in the last 3 years at Axiom. And when I was at NASA, I was the lead for the Human Health and Performance Longevity Program and the ISS Fatigue Management Medical Standards. I'm also on the board of Virgin Galactic. I'm also a consultant for Mental Workout and Time Shifter, and on the board of directors for Houston Hospice and Palliative Care. And I would tell you that if I was going to pass, that is one of the places I'd like to go to be in outer space. And I think, and also oversight for the Polar Medicine Program. And I'm going to talk today about operational space medicine, because that's what I've done all my life. And of course, I'm going to talk, it's where I've spent about 30 years of my career. In 3 years of my career, I want to talk about, of course, Axiom Space, which is my home now, as Chief Medical Officer and now Senior Medical Consultant. And we're trying to build the world's first commercial space station. And it's been quite a journey the last few years, and it's looking like we're on our way. And our vision is, unfortunately, is to basically make healthcare, to make space available to everyone as soon as possible. And healthcare in space is very different. This is Joe Kerwin on Skylab, one of my great mentors in life, and things just are very different. And I'm going to talk medical care in high performance environments. This is the most dangerous thing we do in space, or spacewalks. Really high performance environments like the space shuttle, which was an amazing vehicle, but if you have foam that pops off, hits the edge of the leading wing exactly when the shock wave hits the wing, you'll knock a hole in the wing. And unfortunately, space is very, very dangerous. And you have to take it very seriously. These were good friends of mine who perished on the Columbia mission. And so again, very, very dangerous. And the other good news of this is everything, again, that we've learned from the space program, not everything, but things that we've learned from the space program, I fortunately have been able to apply to my sister. This is my 75-year-old sister who 8 years ago should not be with us because she had metastatic disease to her liver. And because of a space tourist or a space enthusiast, I like to call them, who went up and had a special liver problem and had to have special surgery, that technique evolved and she was able to treat her metastatic disease, shrink it, have her liver excised, and that was 8 years ago, and she is tumor marker free. So that's a good story. I'm also going to talk about my adventures with the clinic, and some of these slides are probably not coming out as well as I should have loaded them, but being in the clinic and being in mission control, flying T-38 high performance jets, being in a form of rescue under a helicopter, practicing water survival, and working on the shuttle. I think I supported 25 shuttle missions over my career, and also watching the career of this being built, which has been a truly amazing facility with all the core operations from all the different companies, all the different countries. It's been truly fascinating. And we've all worked together in zero gravity. In zero gravity, you can only get 30 seconds of this, and then it's 45 seconds of 2G, and you do that 40 times. I think we've done the records 100 of these. But this is the vomit comet, affectionately called, and that's where you get weightless. And that's where I've experienced weightless during my lifetime. And again, as some of the presenters were talking about, things don't work the same way. So you have to look at them from a different perspective. And here you see IV fluids. Well, you can't just hang IV fluids. You've got to have a pressure bag and you've got to have a air fluid separator. You can't just take any off-the-shelf medication. It has to be processed differently. So it's quite an undertaking. You have to teach people about 72 hours about a EMT's training worth of training to be able to intubate. But you've got to also teach them how to intubate in microgravity, which can be a very interesting thing. And how did we figure it out on the KC-135? We used 120-pound porcine models. We flew 20 porcine subjects, and that's how we learned to do emergency cricothyrotomy. That's how we learned to do chest tube drainage. That's how we learned to do CPR. This is the 10 toes high CPR. And this is how Mark Campbell and Richard Jennings learned to do laparoscopic surgery. If we're going to Mars, that's the way we would do surgery in space. And they'll go down in history as the first people to do laparoscopic surgery on animal model and microgravity. And I'll go down in history as the first person to do mouth to snout resuscitation. Okay. And this is our emergency room up in space. We have advanced cardiac life support capabilities up in space. That's Shane Kimbrough doing CPR on a pad. And of course, we take care of sick people. It's not called a vomit comet for anything. You do get sick, but you do get to have fun. Every scene you see in Apollo 13 is not virtual. It's not CGI. It's actually, they flew for 5 weeks. And so you got to, with Apollo 13, you got to know Tom and the gang, and that was fun. And you also got to sit here in mission control and play guitar with Dan Burbank up in orbit. And the person in the corner there is James Taylor. And we're singing up on the roof because Dan's up on the roof. So some fun stuff. Sorry about these slides. But anyway, being in space, if you talk to any of the astronauts who've been there, they love it. It's a joy. You get to fly around and be Superman. You get to work on, like Peggy Whitson, working in a lab module, and you get to, Peggy was the first female astronaut, first female commander of the astronaut corps, and the first commander of the International Space Station, female, and she holds the cumulative record for the most time in space, and she will be going on our second Axiom 2 mission. You also have to devise unique and challenging exercise devices, which unfortunately break. And so we need more robust capabilities, because when they do break, that is that's a huge psychological hit to the astronauts. Exercise is one of the most important things we all do to keep ourselves healthy. And so I'm just throwing out things that in the future that we can, we have needs for. This is Peggy working out on the ARED, and she's needing to do that so she can go out and do a spacewalk and move things around outside on the space station and have the strength to do it. As you can tell, Peggy's in very good shape. And this is an ultrasound device. This is one of the things that NASA has pioneered, the use of ultrasound, because it's portable, there's no radiation. And what is she doing? She's looking at her kidneys. And why is she doing that? Well, that's because where's all that calcium going from the bone loss? It's going through the kidneys. And kidney stones are a big deal. In fact, if you've ever had a kidney stone, you couldn't become an astronaut for long duration flight. We'd fly you short duration flight. And we've since gotten smarter on that. And now we've actually flown some folks with some certain kidney stones that we can mitigate through diet and through nutrition and other countermeasures and medications. There's also a fluid shift up in orbit. And that's why we're looking at the jugular system and the arterial system of the brain. And there's also other things going on that we'll talk about that we need that for. But here, one of the most important things is sleep, which is, I'd say, one of the most important things we all do. It's a third of our lives we spend sleeping, and we probably don't do it in this room, and I have it in the last few days. And it's very, very important. And when you're getting a sunrise and sunset every 45 seconds, it was so important when we built the sleep stations, and we actually transformed the lighting system of the space station with LED technology and different wavelengths of light to give yourself a natural day-night cycle. And that made such a huge difference. We're going to replace all the lights over the course of 8 years. We got them up there, and we changed them in 2 years because the astronauts liked it so much. You've got 10 times the radiation, as James was telling you earlier, in space. You've got 10 times the carbon dioxide. And that's not a fun thing. If we turned off the ventilation system in this room, about an hour from now, our IQs would have dropped about 10 points because of carbon dioxide. It's brain fog. It causes brain fog. It also causes vasodilatation in your brain, which could be contributing to another syndrome I'll discuss here briefly. And of course, there's osteoporosis. You know, why are we losing bone and mass? That's because we're floating. Everything we do is floating, and that's why exercise is so key, resistive exercise. And like James was saying, every organ system of the body is impacted. I don't have time to go through this. I'm doing a ridiculous amount of slides. They're going, is he really going to get through this? And I promise I am. But again, I'm just throwing a lot out, and I'm happy to talk. I'll be around tonight and talk with everybody here about any of these issues. That's why telemedicine is so important. NASA also was a pioneer in telemedicine. One of the first ambulance calls for cardiac arrest was in Houston, sponsored by NASA. This is Dr. Clark, who's a flight surgeon, Navy flight surgeon, and he actually works with Trish. This just happened this last year. This is Dr. Joe Schmidt with holoportation. And Joe is sitting here shaking the hand of an astronaut who is shaking his hand. And Joe, this is how Joe appears to her, and this is how she appears to Joe, actually here in space. And there is tactile sensation that they're working on. And so this is really kind of a great technology. And if you want to take a shot of that, Joe is happy to talk to you about any thoughts about holoportation. We did it on our last mission. It was quite successful on AX-1, the AX-1 mission. There's also some problem with the back of the eyeball. Let me walk here. I'll get a little exercise. For some reason, about 15 years ago, we noted astronauts, their vision changes were different than they should be, just from floating in space. And the fluid changes, we noted different changes. And there's some sort of swelling for the venous and arterial system. The canary is the back of the eyeball, and it pushes it forward. And as you can see, there's a marked difference in pre-flight and post-flight in the optic disc edema category. And that's probably because of fluid shifts. The fluid, 15% of my volume that's in my feet now goes to my head, and you're puffy. You're puffy for quite a few days up in space, and actually you're puffy all the time, but they really notice it until they are able to diurese that fluid off. So here are the, and so they've come up with this spaceflight associated neuroocular syndrome. And it's probably caused from the fluid shifts, as I mentioned, the fact that what are we doing with this resistive exercise? You're straining and causing intracranial pressure problems there. The hypercapnia, the high carbon dioxide, is causing vasodilatation in your brain. The fact that you're stressed out because you haven't slept very much in space is a stressor. There are also genetic factors which didn't come through here, and there's venous occlusion. You don't drain your brain as we do here on Earth. Well, they've had a great time on space. They've done a bunch of experiments, and now we have to come home. You might recognize this person in the back. I was the flight surgeon on Peggy Whitson's mission, Expedition 16. So Young was there with Yuri. And got in the Soyuz and came home, and they're supposed to land like this. Parachute hits the ground, that lands, and everything's fine. Well, unfortunately, because their craft didn't separate, one of the bolts explosive bolts didn't go. It took a while for the Soyuz to actually break that bolt, come in on its heat shield. And the front of the vehicle got very hot. And when it landed, it set the field on fire and burned up the parachute. And they were about 300 kilometers off course. And this was the emergency helicopter that landed. And our team soon followed. And there they are. And this was quite an experience. And we arrived with the main medical team, and we weren't sure how they were doing. And this is not one of them. This is actually one of the workers ended up having a seizure, and this is the anesthesiologist helping them there. And we were going to find Peggy, Soyun, and Yuri and make sure they were okay. And they were, of course, they were packaged. And so it's important to have the right rescue forces and the support personnel that you need. But in the middle of Kazakhstan, you've got it, but you can have some really interesting folks show up and try to help. When they first showed up and it landed, they didn't know what this was. They got there before any of the rescue forces, and they were going, "Is this a boat? What is this?" Anyway, it was a rough landing, but they all did very well. And this is about 5 or 6 hours later coming in. This gentleman didn't do so well, and he's not ill or injured. He just had horrible vestibular reaction and was orthostatically, didn't have good blood flow to his brain, and that was a problem for him. So that takes, and now we're landing in the water after being in space for 6 months or longer with waves. And that's why sometimes we had to delay our mission, our landing of X1, because they were taking too much, the sea state was not good. Okay, human response, I'm going to go past this, but just to tell you that it takes for neurological rebound, we don't let them drive a car for 2 weeks or fly a high performance jet for 30 days. It can take up to 2 weeks. For bone loss, you can maybe never get it back, or it takes months to 6 months to 2 years for some people to get their bone loss back, but they can get it back, and that's the important thing. Okay. No joy here. Next slide. So people said astronauts don't get sick. Hold on, where were we? Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm going to blow through these with the radiation. Radiation is kind of a showstopper for us right now. That's why we need to go back to the moon because we're outside the Van Allen belts that protect us from the radiation. We actually had an Apollo mission that missed a major solar flare by 2 weeks, and that would have really done damage to them. We know we're going to Mars because they're taking pictures of us, and we found water on Mars. So very quickly, humanity's next low Earth orbit chapter is the company I'm working with now, who I love, Axiom Space. They've taken over the No-2 port of the space station and plan to build out from it. Our first private commercial mission to ISS was this just finished in April, and we're also building a spaceport in Houston in our next ISS. This is the team that Cam and Suf put together that been working with, and our mission is to basically, it was founded in 2016. We had our first mission 2021 in April. Our next one is in April or June 2023. And then we're going to build a spaceport 2024. The node will go up, first node, the HAB 25, and we'll have a completed craft in 2028.
Thank you so much, Smith.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Jaywant Parmar, CEO of Advanced Telerobotics.
There we go. Okay, very good. Shock, cardiogenic shock, hypovolemic shock, septic shock, neurogenic shock. Shock, final common pathway for the most critical human disease processes. When the patient is in shock, we must place a central venous catheter. PIC placement, a mainstay surgical procedure done on Earth almost 50,000 times a day, market capped by the capacity of a core of skilled providers who can deliver the PICs safe and fast, protected from deadly viral and bacterial contamination at the bedside points of care in hospitals on Earth. PIC placement is so common and so necessary that the procedure must be done at the bedside. Thus, the current state PIC implant is open to the ambient environment of the hospital ward on average 45 minutes and touched hundreds of times before being deposited into the bloodstream. Endovascular surgery must be different in space. I designed CleanPic for microgravity space, incorporating sterile enclosed catheter guide wire ensembles with bonded magnets called single-use cartridges and a multi-use motion control handle providing magnetic actuation through the sealed enclosures. But we desperately need CleanPic on Earth too. With COVID-19, all of the gaps in PIC delivery on Earth have been exacerbated. CleanPic takes a sterile procedure table and wraps it up like a burrito at the factory, forever protecting it from the hostile care environments. As a result of the idea, CleanPic can even deliver in space. CleanPic solves many problems. Currently, a synergistic disaster is in progress in the United States with increasing CLABSI rate as a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Decades of slow improvement erased in 1 quarter. CMS had to stop tracking it for hospital pay. Hospitals would have collapsed. Further compounding the disaster, terrible superbugs are now evolving faster than ever. How are other companies protecting Mothership Earth? Unfortunately, the market is flat-footed, blinders on. The CleanPic globally patented design defines next-level care, delivered with 0 touches and 0 exposure, straight from the package into the bloodstream using magnets. CleanPic offers decreased infectious risks to patients, decreased risks to healthcare providers and the public, decreased medical waste, and a significantly easier procedure to perform. These become enormous cost savings on Earth, creating a market shock. Yes, space friends, let's wake up the Earth market. CleanPic delivered safely in Earth orbit. What comes next? It's amazing. Key elements of the proof of concept prototype. First, a single-use cartridge that contains a sealed catheter and guide wire components, each with magnets bonded. Second, a motion control handle locks external magnetic handles to the internal cartridge elements. Third, a support stand system which is hung from a standard IV pole on Earth and mounted to an aeromedical gurney off Earth. In space, surgeons cannot rely on gravity to hold tools, contain fluids, and manage waste. In space, endovascular procedures must be different. 3D renderings, pre-production prototype CleanPic system with the hand-operated MCH.
in the not so distant future, a robotic AI-enabled MCH. Isn't that a fascinating prospect for endovascular surgery? So what does the CleanPick provide? It's going to be a shock of relief for medical markets on Earth and a milestone achieved for humanity in space. We have a US-only business model, and despite low procedural margins and large sales and support teams needed to execute, we see robust profitability in year 4. Please note that this business model is US only. We have patents issued in China and Japan, others pending. Thank you and Godspeed, Care in Space. Together we can dream and achieve the historic next level of care for humanity. It's just beyond the horizon.
Thank you, Jalad. I'd like to open the floor to the judges for any questions. Tracy?
I'm an interventional radiologist, been practicing for 12 years. My partners are in product development. That's Lonnie Rollins. He's not here today. And he's brought over 1,300 products to market. And my other partner is Dan Norfleet. He's in medical devices. He's been involved in 7 medical device startups. And currently he's on the advanced telerobotics team. So I'm entirely self-funded.
Yes, Danny.
Hi, can you please elaborate a little bit more how you differentiate your product with what exists today?
Yeah, the current state pick, if I were to bring it out, it's assembled at the bedside with a guide wire. It's open to the environment for 45 minutes. That can't even be done in space. There's no way to contain those. It's dipped in blood. The guide wire is dipped in blood and taken out of the blood and put on a drape in the hospitals now. That could never be done in space. The CleanPick system uses ensembles that are sealed and have magnetic actuators. The magnetic fields do not need to traverse human tissue, and that differentiates our intellectual property.
Yes.
Have you done any customer discovery? Have you gone out? Have you done any customer discovery, spoken with potential customers, and what have been their reaction?
We've shown it to a handful of physicians, and most people are used to doing things one way. They learn how to use how to snake catheters and guide wires through people's vascular anatomy. But using the CleanPick system, the feedback's been that the tactile sensitivity is actually better than doing it the old-fashioned way. As far as where we want to go in the future, currently we only have a single lumen catheter design. We'd like to make multi-lumen catheters.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have Anastasia Persina, founder and CEO of Stellar Amenities.
All right, let's get started. My name is Anastasia. I am from Stellar Amenities, which is a space architecture company founded in California in 2019. And our mission is to outfit space habitats with products and services so we can improve well-being and performance of astronauts. And congratulations, we all now a little bit astronauts because we all went through pandemic and we lived in isolation for long periods of time. And that's what astronauts been through. In fact, astronauts spend way more time in isolation, and it's going to be continued. It's going to be many years living in isolation and confinement in space. And NASA's Human Research Program defined that the second biggest problem in critical health, second biggest problem in human access to space is critical health, meaning that any type of issue and conflict in the team can jeopardize the entire mission, even leading to catastrophe, such as loss of life or economical losses too. And those are just a few problems that we have in space. And those are quotes from NASA's astronauts. I was able to maintain the same level of performance, but that came out at much higher concentration level. Fatigue had affected me that I asked somebody to watch me. And then when you're fatigued, it's more important to not make any important decisions. Introducing here XPod, experience pod. It's next generation living quarters that is designed to support human well-being and performance in space, specifically astronauts' well-being and performance in space, by introducing multisensory immersive experiences, and also providing a good night's sleep through deep pressure therapy. Why this solution is better than other ones is non-invasive, it's easy to use, it's more sustainable than other current countermeasures. This is the scheme, how it works, and basically we have the outer layer is it's non-gas, it's isolation, it's a soundproof. And from the inside, we have two things. It's LED screen, it's LED tile screen that supports the visual. And then we have Marshmallow sleeping bag, which is supporting the deep pressure therapy that improves sleeps, but also it has multisensory experiences embedded in it, such as tactile experience. So this is how it works. Per our space mission, custom assets such as pre-recorded videos, audio, and varieties of sense, humidity settings, and air programs associated with astronauts' favorite places are loaded on the XPod hardware. And then the second step is astronaut needed to use the XPod. They zip themselves in the Marshmallow and they do a voice command. One of them is XPod, let's go home. And then there's the scenery of your home, there's family. And actually we have a smart fabric inside of Marshmallow that can convey hugs, virtual hugs. So you can feel connected to your family. Other settings could be, XPod, let's go to Iceland. There's imitation of Iceland weather. There's sun against your skin. So everything that astronauts are missing right now, it's here. And also, if you're missing the busy streets of Paris or many places with busy streets, you can say, oh, let's go to Paris. Why now? And there's three words: productivity, sleep, and well-being. And as we mentioned before, productivity is something that we, in small gains of productivity can really matter, can make a difference between winning and losing profits of millions of dollars. And sleep is a big struggle for astronauts, right? And well-being, immersive experiences improve well-being. And this is our pipeline. We have $3.4 million in client pipeline, and this is the companies investing in developing habitation capabilities. We are targeting commercial LEO destinations, NASA Artemis program, and Mars exploration missions, and extreme environments. And we have a roadmap. Sorry. Our core team is combining different experiences working with MIT Media Lab, NASA, ESA, and we are backed by a recognized space habitat expert who had worked at 45 projects at NASA. We also backed by our partners. We are already working with suppliers on implementing this product. And our XPod design reviewers were two astronauts who contributed their vision. Thank you.
We have time for one question.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more regarding the IP strategy? Because it seems like it's very easy to copy that.
Yeah. Well, it's let me see. Yeah, it's a good question. So basically, we provide custom services for our clients, and that's going to be their IP whenever we develop this product. So that's pretty simple.
Thank you, Anastasia. Next, we have Rich Purnell, CEO of Highview Science.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich Purnell. I spent a better part of the last decade working at a company called Nanorax and helping build a new economy based on CubeSats. And a big part of that reason why that happened was that the tools that entrepreneurs needed to build their businesses were available. And currently, when we look at how we are able to take advantage of the full potential of space and be able to move from basic research into actual product development, the big problem is that the lack of equipment on the space station. And so that currently, as it stands on the space station, we're kind of near about 1940s and 1950s technology. We have, in many cases, things are done by hand, they're done by incubators, it's done in small batches. And the goal here is to be able to develop the tools so that entrepreneurs can do the next generation of drug discovery and product development for biomedical research in space. We think that there are 3 areas to be able to do that in. The first is in being able to do things like fluid transfers for pipetting. And so we're developing our first product that's a 96 well plate that allows you to be able to provide fluids into the various, into the wells. As well as our second product that we're currently developing the prototype for is in doing cell plating. Currently in basic lab operations, many lab operations on the ground require gravity. So for example, putting cells into a Petri dish, after you've split them, you wait for the cells to be able to settle to the ground. And so what we want to do with our first product with the cell plating technology is to be able to take advantage of the existing infrastructure that's already there. Companies like BioServe have made great advances in things like incubators, as well as Space Farm has been developing a lot of products for being able to do remote types of work and things like that. And so one of the keys is if you're able to attach cells to a surface, then you're able to do things like put plates on a slide, you're able to split them, and you're able to do some of your sample cell prep in space. And so based on our customer discovery process in talking with researchers, one of the things we've discovered is that this is one of the things that's missing in space that you can currently do in the lab on the ground, is to be able to attach cells to a surface. So our long-term goal is to be able to develop the same type of tools that are available in lab automation to be able to bring them into space. And so we want to develop our system to work within the existing infrastructure that's already there. Currently, we're doing a few hundred to a few thousand cell experiments per year in space. And with the right equipment and with the right type of automation systems, we can move that to hundreds of thousands of systems to be able to do that. And so our goal is to be able to be the platform for drug discovery companies and entrepreneurs that want to access space to be able to do that. And so we want to build a rack-based system that operates in the current shirt sleeve environment that exists on space station, as well as will exist in the Axiom modules, as well as the others that are being developed there. So we don't want to build our own rockets or our own satellites or anything else like that. We want to take advantage of the existing system that's already there. And so we've already started a lot of the process of the drug discovery process in talking with things like anti-aging and nutraceutical companies that have a very short path for regulatory discovery. And what we've discovered is that there are opportunities here for being able to not only develop the tools that are sort of the holes in the gap currently, but as well be able to move to the full automated environment as well. And so in a lot of that, we've been able to develop that by having a great team. One of my partners in this business is a former colleague at Nanorax who has many years research doing science experiments, as well as So-Yeon Yi, the first Korean astronaut. She has a lot of experience as well as managing director of a blood analysis company, as well as Dr. Peter Lee, who's one of the leading researchers in cardiac cells in space. And so we have a great team, both on the science side, as well as on the technical side. Some of the people that aren't on here are on the engineering side that we're building, that we're looking to expand the team. And so we're looking to raise a $2 million round. We've already got 2 investors already in. One's a former venture capitalist who has a lot of experience in developing entrepreneurship programs at Georgia Tech and University of Arizona, as well as a partner in one of the largest law firms as well. And we hope also to use the opportunity with this program to be able to develop our first prototype and hopefully use the resources provided by Axiom to be able to fly our first prototype of a system for doing the cell plating system to be able to attach cells to a surface. So we think long-term that there are opportunities here to be able to build this and be able to build a platform that entrepreneurs can build upon. So I appreciate your time and look forward to your questions.
I'd like to open the floor for judges' questions.
Can you talk a little bit more about the details of your technology?
Sure. The idea is to do a sort of a low-grade centrifuge that allows at 1G to be able to attach cells to a surface over a period of time and be able to do it over a variety of different types of surfaces and things like that as well. And so we've got some current breadboard designs that we're doing. And our hope then is just to be able to take that, and we're currently driving a lot of the requirements through the research community and kind of what they need in order to do it. But the long-term goal here is to be able to have something where you can take cells and be able to attach them to a surface for doing some of the basic lab operations like splitting cells and things like that. So we're currently in the design phase, and so part of the trade-offs are, how many you can fit within that. And so there's different designs. Some are high throughput designs that are allow you to be able to do a whole bunch in a very small sample. But then in part of it is we're in the initial designs, though, we're looking at what are some of the different designs based on different types of cell types and things like that. So to answer your question is that we want to have about order of magnitude better density than current systems as well for being able to do that. But a lot of it is really driven by the results that we get from how small can we make it, how, what kind of surfaces they will attach to. And so that's what we're hoping to do in our first demonstration to develop that product. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Isaac Felsher, CEO and co-founder of Algae Singularity.
Impossible to pronounce my name, I know. We'll talk about that. Okay, so I'm here representing Algae Singularity. Our mission is to enable sustainable life in space, and we're working together with partners from the United Arab Emirates. The challenges of sustainable life are plentiful. Some were discussed already today. Algae technology has the potential to tackle most of these challenges. It generates oxygen. It can be a superfood. It can be a biofuel, purifies air. But the question is whether it can also tackle maybe the greatest medical challenge of them all. And I'm talking, of course, about cosmic radiation. So in today's technology, you can see there on the left, aluminum basically does block some of cosmic radiation, this high energized particles, but it also creates secondary radiation. So today's technology basically does not really enable sustainable life. And oops, one back maybe. Okay, I'll just skip one. And this is data you got from NASA and from JPL, which basically shows that any stay in space of above 6 months is virtually impossible, and there's too much of a health risk. So we have to find the technology to tackle this challenge. So what we're offering, if it comes in, we call it the Celebra. Wait a minute, there's some problem with the presentation. Anyhow, we're talking about a photobioreactor, which generates oxygen, obviously. It also sequesters CO2. So these are another two serious issues in space. And we're also, no, sorry about that. Okay, something's missing here. But we're also developing or want to develop a biomaterial out of algae, which will be an extra layer to protect from radiation. It's a modular approach, so it can be together and it can be separated. You see here science fiction. This is a movie just came out last month with photobioreactors. My job is basically to take all of the science fiction and make it into science fact. So we want to start with the biomaterial. We want to develop this biomaterial. And the question is, can this be done? Can biomaterial protect from cosmic radiation? So I'll give you here an example of, this is a case study, something I was looking into just in the past few weeks, that a researcher from Johns Hopkins, he took the fungi, which was flourishing in the Chernobyl area, and he discovered that melanin was the protection, gave protection to the cell's DNA, and he developed an experiment sent to the ISS, which from what I understand is quite successful. Later on, Northwestern has developed a synthesized version with melanin together with selenium, and this also is showing very promising results of protection from radiation. So all of this area of biomaterials in space is an untapped, it has untapped potential that we want to tap into. Okay, one thing which might be more difficult than fighting cosmic radiation is pronouncing my name and my co-founder's name. So in Hebrew, it's Yitzhak, which is Isaac for you to make it easy. We have here a strong team, a synergetic team. 3 of us come from the aerospace industry, actually from Israel Aerospace Industries. Maya is a space engineer. Meidad, her husband, by the way, is a system engineer. We have here Yaron and Naama. These are PhD scientists in Israel. Yaron is the leading scientist in algae biotechnology in Israel, head of the Algae Biotechnology Center in Israel. And Naama is a molecular biologist. Netta, by the way, is also joining us, and she's the first and only PhD in space law, and she's joining us. So regarding my co-founder, Professor Avital, he has a 30-year experience here in the United States, and he came back to Israel and established a cancer treatment center. He's a cancer biologist, stem cell expert, and he also had a few startups which he was involved in, medical startups. So regarding the growth potential that we have here, algae has really, it's unbelievable what algae can do. We want to tackle all of these in the future, long term, okay? We're going to focus on the biomaterial at first, but there also is great potential in dietary radiation countermeasures. These are pills that you can take, and of course, superfood and biofuel and so forth. And I'm just nearly finished. On Earth, there's a lot of applications. My co-founder, the MD, is very excited about all the medical applications which are possible. And this is quite important that we are offering a unique partnership in the Middle East. We're rebranding the Middle East. We want to achieve peace in space, let's call it. Starlab Oasis is a NanoRacks company based in Abu Dhabi. We're in touch with them. We signed already an LOI, and we plan together to tackle or to approach the UAE Space Agency with their Mars 2117 program, hopefully getting into some kind of a long-term R&D program with them. So that's it, and this is our goal, to achieve algae singularity and enable real sustainable life in space. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one question.
You talked about the problems of secondary radiation in the current solutions.
Right.
What does your solution do to overcome that? And how is it better?
First of all, to be honest, a photobioreactor by itself, because it has a water medium, blocks all cosmic radiation. Okay, it's a matter of how much water you have over there. So this will tackle this issue of secondary radiation. Also, there should be a gap between the aluminum and the photobioreactor or our Celebra solution, which can have storage, for example, and that also can slow down and tackle these secondary radiation. But what we want to do is manage to stop completely all secondary radiation from reaching the crew.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Toda rabah.
Next, we have Ari Gargir, founder and CEO of Red Sea Biotech.
Hi, I'm Ari Gargir, founder CEO of Red Sea Biotech. We're developing an industrial process for the production of universal red blood cells for life-saving transfusions. and for advanced therapies. In 1990, I went paragliding, I crashed, I blew up my 2 lungs. This is me getting field surgery, and I was saved thanks to a blood transfusion. But the story isn't about me. Oxygen-carrying red blood cells are essential for saving lives in trauma treatments, childbirth, surgery, chronic anemia treatments, and cancer treatments. Around the world, 120 million blood units are donated every year. It's an over $20 billion market, but it's probably double that size because there are 100 million blood units that are still in shortage. Millions around the world suffer from inadequate and insufficient blood transfusions. Millions suffer from blood disorders like thalassemia and sickle cell disease and require blood transfusions in order to survive. There were widespread blood shortages during the COVID pandemic, and the donors are the biggest problem for this industry, and this has to change. When going to space, humans will be taking with them all of their old blood disorders, but the harsh environment of space will bring additional challenges. Astronauts suffer from space anemia for reasons that are not totally understood. Humans will encounter medical emergencies during the dynamic stages of spaceflight, EVA, gravity on Mars and on the moon, and high dose exposure to radiation will also cause different anemia problems. The blood availability from the crew and donations and the compatibility of the blood types will not be sufficient to save the people. Red Sea Biotech is on the way to change this. We have patented scalable stem cell technology that will to produce universal red blood cells in highest quality, pathogen-free, and without any residual blood components. When we reach economy of scale, the cost of a blood transfusion will be competitive with the cost of donated blood, and the production of the red blood cells will be done in regional production sites around the world, so they will fit the regulatory requirements in each area and also be close to the hospitals and maintain logistic distance. When going to space, we'll have to take these capabilities with us in order to maintain availability and compatibility of the blood for the space travelers. It will be in the space stations or on Earth or Moon using small-scale bioreactors or automatic stem cell cultivation systems, cryopreserved universal red blood cells, or desiccation-preserved red blood cells. The product will no longer be dependent on donors. It will be a commodity. It will be a pharmaceutical. It will be no longer be a national treasure. The cost of blood transfusions today is up to $200. We will reach the cost of $50. So saving lives will also be very profitable. We have a very strong team of advisors and stem cell scientists, and we're collaborating with academia and hospitals around the world. Red Sea Biotech is going to solve the availability and bring the world high quality red blood cells, saving millions of lives around the world and in space. In the 5 minutes that I was talking here, 20 people died from blood loss. So please think about that. We are going to change this. Thank you very much.
I'd like to open the floor to the judges.
Can you tell us what stage of development are you? Have you done proof of concept, anything?
Proof of concept, and we're now scaling up. We're moving from sub-liter volume reactors into liter reactors in the next few months.
And can you tell us how you're funded now?
Until now, we raised almost $2 million, and we're seeking additional funding.
Can you speak to your shelf life? Something to do with how long you can keep something viable considering lysis?
Yeah, shelf life. Well, today the shelf life is a month, but in fact, the quality of red blood cells diminishes in 2 weeks, and the blood donation agencies hold even shorter inventories. Since a blood cell in our body is between 0 and 120 days, there's the whole distribution of the ages of the cells. We'll harvest the cells on 1 day. So we expect that the shelf life will be longer. There's already evidence from lab-produced red blood cells in academia that show that that potential of the extended shelf life of red blood cells that are cultivated.
Do you think you can just put that in the freezer and just take each time like one stem cells dose and then expand that in space?
Freezing blood is difficult because you have to add cryopreservatives, and you have to eliminate them before you retransfuse them into a patient. My hope is that developing ways of desiccating it by either ways of freeze drying the red blood cells or using different technologies. That freeze drying can be bad for red blood cells, but other technologies for desiccating them and then reconstituting them with water would make them more available and have even an extended shelf life.
Thank you so much, Ari.
All right, we're going to kick it off. We're going to pivot a bit and step out and talk a bit about what the entrepreneurial landscape looks like in the biomed space generally. I really want to thank my panelists for joining me here today. I'm Elizabeth Reynolds, Managing Director for Starburst USA. Joining me here today, we have Thea Pham from OCV, Kwame Omer from Wavemaker 360 Health and MedTech Innovator, and Luella Cox from Mars Bio and CEO of Launch Lab. So we hear a lot about the biological revolution today. I want to talk about that a bit. As we've previously had the industrial revolution and the digital revolution, the era we're in today is broadly described as the biological revolution. What does that mean for you guys today? What are some of the trends that are really driving this, and how does this impact humanity?
Okay, I guess I will take this first one. So for a bio-revolution, I usually think of it in 3 different concepts. First is the engineering of molecules and processes. We're talking about engineering molecules for CRISPR-Cas9 or siRNA or RNA vaccine, mRNA vaccine with Moderna recently. That can eventually lead to cell culture in a lab. A lot of that revolutions happened, but most importantly is actually the reducing cost and increasing capacity for a lot of the omics. So we're talking about genomics, proteomics. Single molecules proteomics is also in the work. And then the third layer is actually the biocomputing capabilities that enable not only catch up with the current hardware that is available, that detect the massive and unprecedented amount of data, not only omics data, but also health data that gathered from across different platforms that is untapped and unutilized. So the biocomputing aspect and the data aspect is what we're actually excited about.
In the world I live in at Wavemaker 360 Health, we're seeing a convergence of machine, body, and data that can be harnessed by software that is smart enough to drive actionable insights. And I think we're going to continue to see that convergence. And I think what has really kicked this off Companies like my friend Jason Crockett may still be in the audience. Companies like Snap, where they understand data, data analysis, engagement, and can harness that in concert with devices that can collect them with smart sensors to drive better outcomes. So that's where I think things are headed.
I just realized there's only 2 microphones. Yeah, and I think I'd add to that, I think it's critical that the cost of actually doing stuff is really one of the key drivers, and the accessibility of data sets. I think the other thing that we've seen, and what really actually drove both the formation of Lab Launch and of Mars Bio, is the democratization of access to the technology, which really is what's driving this as a revolution. We've been in a 50-year period of incredible progress in the understanding of biology and physiology, but the opportunities to commercialize discoveries have really been restricted to, frankly, a very small number of people from a very small number of institutions working with a very small number of partners. And so as big as pharmaceuticals and biotechnology is, it's really still a very young, almost artisanal industry. And what has happened in the last 20 years with the globalization of information technology, the access to data sets, the access to information and training, and also the access to automation and outsourcing, this has made it possible for many, many more people to experiment with biological solutions and to try to implement them as products that they can commercialize. And that's what's really driving this. It's the combination of the falling costs, the barriers to access, but also the increase of the ability of innovators to find the information they need to commercialize a cool idea.
I bring this up because I talk a lot about the fact that I really do think space is an important part of this biological revolution. As we've talked about today, microgravity in and of itself provides a completely unique research environment and has the potential to really unlock our understanding of disease and aging. And the remoteness and harshness of space drives innovation. We've seen that across the board historically in hardware and software, more traditional aerospace means, and more we see the opportunity in other sectors to take advantage of the technology in this environment. And I think that as we think about the future on Earth, looking at remote environments and how we translate some of this health, as James touched on in his talk, is really important. So as we think about the future of Earth terrestrially and some of the needs that we're seeing in these resource poor areas, are there things that you're excited about, opportunities where you see a need for some of this new technology development and where we can translate some of this?
The technology that I've been really fascinated about, especially now that there's global warming and extreme conditions are becoming more and more frequent, the simulations of a human bodies, or even as simple as proteins, how they interact with each other in different conditions without actually a need for an actual wet lab experiment produced. And that predictions enabled by MLAI is actually very crucial for us to get to a certain level of understanding of what pathway, and that lead to like a cost cut down of certain experiments that need to be taken. And when we talk about, biotech, healthcare is also the next steps. For extreme conditions, the interface between sensors and data and health data, when we talk about, remote patient monitoring for remote area, and how do we get that data reliably, and how that data is interpreted reliably, and how care is delivered in a remote environment is also some of the technology that we're fascinated about.
We've been talking with a company who has a founder that's a PhD physicist who worked for NASA, and he studied vision science, and he's developing a technology to allow remote diagnosis of your prescription, your eye prescription. So ideally, it could mean people in more remote areas have an accurate prescription for their eye. So I love that formula of non-traditional medtech entrants from NASA, from Google, from Snap, partnering with more experienced medtech people to build technologies born out of their experience in maybe a different industry, but applied to reach more patients in more remote areas. And I see more of that in the future.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting question because there's a reason why Mars Bio VC was called Mars Bio VC. When we put together our firm to invest in early stage biotechnologies that were looking at the bigger picture of biology, what can we do with biology? We used the idea of a Mars colony as our thought process. Like, what do you need to, what do you actually need to survive on Mars? Because we know we can fly stuff up there and land it, and sure, we need some better, faster, more reliable technology to build a city up there, but there's no fundamental new physics needed. We absolutely need fundamentally new biotechnology. And the funny thing is, what we came back to is something that's been something everyone's been talking about for the last 2 years: supply chain. The supply chain from Earth to Mars is not something that can be, really scaled. Everything that people are needing up there, whether it's their food, the pharmaceuticals to treat them when they get sick, systems to scrub CO2 out of the air, the materials they build, they're going to need all of those to be produced on site. And it turns out there is a technology to create complex things from base molecules, and that's called biology. And that was really the thing that we used to really center our thinking. And that's what we've seen applied in some of our companies working either with algae as a foodstuff or recycling of complex molecules that are current landfill issues. These are problems that, we have on Earth that we can, use that philosophy to address.
Yeah, so this all ties into synthetic bio, which is something that is critical when we talk about space travel, because yes, we are limited by what we can bring or what we can make or what we can find. Synthetic bio has definitely suffered from some reputation problems over the years, but it seems like it's really coming into its own. I see more conversation of it being part of ESG plans for corporations, for really looking at how we can manufacture everything more sustainably here. Are you guys working with synthetic bio companies? What are some of the things that you're excited about in that space?
I'll go with synthetic biology. It's an interesting, and this is what happens whenever you have an industrial revolution, right? There's a few really, really great ideas, and once everyone sees it blowing up, all the grifters come along to play. And that's been a challenge, but I think what has happened really the last 5 to 10 years, actually, we've seen a real maturation, and part of it is investor firms getting more savvy about what's real biology and what's not real biology. And I think that's what's key. One of the core tenets, I think, of good SynBio and what it really promises to us is the ability to marry biological concepts with other sectors, with miniaturization of manufacturing, with high throughput data processing and machine learning. And so to really do a good job of creating a solution that marries multiple concepts, you need deep knowledge in each of those sectors. And that's what, honestly, from my point of view, seeing colleagues in the investment industry, people the last few years really have hired well and brought in really expert people, there's people on this panel, to really think deeply about the science behind them and where the opportunities are. But we're seeing so much innovation right now, whether it's from food production, whether that's, you've seen a whole bunch of lab grown foods, to materials production, there's anything that can be made that's a macromolecule life can make efficiently.
I'll be brief because we don't do any investing in synthetic bio, but what we do see on occasion are medical device companies that are interested in sustainability. And if I were to wager, if I were to hypothesize, there's an opportunity for more patient capital to ride the long journey that people developing these technologies need to make. But via an OCV, they probably get into that. hard science over there.
This is timely because we looked at a fair number of synthetic biology company recently, and what's the bottleneck in that industry that we see is truly at the beginning, at the strain selection. Company pour billions into actually selecting an efficient strain that would then, make liters and liters of just bioreactors. And the application of AI and data and simulations into that initial steps in order to efficiently make a new compound, whether it's a drug or whether it's the new food, is absolutely essential. And that aspect of the data is what at OCV we're really excited about. We actually made an investment recently into a data science company, not specifically for synthetic bio per se, but what the thesis is that at this point in time, we have hardware-wise, we have exceeded the capacity that the biocomputing has, the capability to actually process. So if you if you look up in the space and you see all these stars, you see like little dots, but if you have the James Webb, the telescope, you can see actual refined details of that. And that is the beauty of a lot of the power of the data analyses that we've been making a lot of investment in these days.
Yeah, as we talk about the way data is really transforming this industry, speed, I think, is the greatest gift that it has brought. But with that comes, I think, increased tension with some of the regulatory structure. Both space and biology are very complex topics and highly regulated, as they're so tied to human life. How do we find the right middle ground between innovation and safety here?
So I have an opinion about that. I was fortunate enough to spend 12 years at the FDA, and I've kept in touch with my colleagues there. I've been in the industry for 20 years. So if you had to guess the first time Google stepped foot in the FDA's building, would you say 2 years ago, 5 years ago, or 10 years ago? Who would say 2 years ago? Who would say 5 years ago? Who would say 10 years ago? Exactly. It's an opportunity, but the insight is it's a long journey if you want to be innovative in a regulated area, and the capital that's invested in that space needs to be patient, but the payoffs can be huge. And I think I'm really excited about large pools of capital like ARPA-H that are going to be focused on making big moonshot bets in healthcare to fertilize more companies that are in it for the long haul and are willing to interact with the FDA on a regular basis.
I think that was a great answer. I like it.
Well, thank you very much.
So we'll do one last quick question here, and that is, what advice do you guys have for entrepreneurs? What are you really looking for as you look at, again, these very complex topics that people are tackling? What are you looking for as far as solutions? What are you looking for a team? And any words of advice that you have?
I was actually an entrepreneur previous to my current role. So I would say the one thing that we cared about is absolutely the team. That is because of early stage investing, the team and the technology is the two most important things on any deal that we looked at. We want entrepreneurs that are open-minded, that are innovative, and a technology that are not only cutting edge, not only are driving that innovations, but also is a sustainable business model going forward, especially in this current recession that we're going through. So we truly looked for those team and those technology.
Yes, similar. We invest in very early stage companies, inception stage, the first out of the lab. So honestly, we're not really looking at your business model. Weird as that might be to say, is this like, if it's going to take you 10 years to get your product to market, I really don't really care about how big that market is. What I care about is this a really cool new technology, and are you the person who can take it from where it is today, which is maybe, an early patent at UCLA, and take it to a place where it shows real promise that'll get some of these bigger guys who write Series A, Series B checks to go, actually, that's something that really would make a difference in the market. For me, it's all about the technology. For us, that's where the innovation is. So it's the technology. Is it real? Is it genuinely creative? Does it actually solve a problem? That's the number one problem I see with a lot of startups is there's a really cool technology looking for a solution. Is a solution looking for a problem rather, and that's the thing. And when it comes to team, it's the team. It's the ability to learn. One of my colleagues at Lab Launch Alpha, when we were having our first get-together meeting, we're saying, what do we really look for in a founder? And he said one word: humility. And it's something that's desperately lacking in every sector of the economy. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like, none of us is perfect. We all, are going to make mistakes along the way. But you have the humility to understand the limits of your technology, of what you can do, or where you're going to need help. Because the earlier you address problems, the better you're able to solve them, and the better entrepreneur you're going to be.
The founding team that I would meet 10 years ago looked like this. A middle-aged gentleman, halfway through his career at Medtronic, thinks he can build a better widget. He teams up with a clinician from Cedars-Sinai, and they're off to the races. Now, I meet a PhD physicist who worked at NASA, who teams up with someone who sold for Verizon and knows how to do enterprise sales, who teams up with someone who actually worked in building products, but a really cross-functional team from disparate industries, and that synergy can be magic. And I think that's a really compelling team for the future. That's what the young people say, 100%.
That's a great note to end on as we celebrate this cross-disciplinary effort all around. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Starting back up with the pitches, we have Susan Ibjul, founder and CEO of Avatar Medic.
Live long and prosper. I'm Dame Commander Susan Ibjul, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Avatar Medic. Avatar Medic, saving lives, impacting and saving lives via exploration and innovation in space medicine and health tech. So our vision is to actually pioneer real-time remote medical relief via the enabling a new possibility for care delivery in terrestrial and off-planet markets. And our mission is literally to improve the quality of healthcare delivery. And that we do by being able to integrate and coordinate research, design, and integration of frontier technologies. So here's our stellar magical team. And the 3 I's. We are international, interdisciplinary, and we're inclusive. And together as a whole, we have over 50 years of deep knowledge and skill set, not only in medicine, but in all categories of medicine. And we have not only MDs, but we have PhDs, master degree, and technology engineers as part of our team. So with that, you can see uniquely, we have many members of our team that are analog astronauts. So that means we really understand the environment that we're working in. So where's the problem? So we have found over the years that healthcare providers, including innovative space companies, they have a problem and they don't know how to solve that problem, but maybe a technology, a frontier technology can be the possible solution, but they don't know the technology or they can't find the traction in these two particular sectors. So Avatar Medic comes in as the connector, the integrator. And what we, as our branding product, is the integration of frontier technology as a service. And with that, we're able to leverage several of the frontier technologies, we can call it exponential technologies, to be able to solve their problem and find a solution. So here's the diagram of the project itself. It's the virtual cycle. The customer, the client can be onboarded at any part of these three phases of the cycle, depending on the TRL, which is the technology readiness level, or the human readiness level. And we can provide, as consultants, strategic planners, being able also to be co-principal investigators, help the design, to be able to navigate this whole virtual cycle. Now, what's important about this virtual cycle is that the customer can come in multiple times. So that way for us as a company is that we are able to have a recurring portfolio of customers. And here really is just a diagram of what I just said, but I really want to emphasize phase two is that we can also offer as virtual principal investigator to be able to work with the customers. And that allows us, one, to help them to get grants and funding. And secondly, is that for us as a company, we're able to do joint IP, intellectual property development, and then co-licensing. So that's extra revenue that comes into our company. And to date, we have really forged many partnerships, as you could see here, across all verticals. But in particular, MMARS, we're doing joint IP development with them. And as contractors with our partners, working with the DoD, developing medical XR for the battlefield. And here it's really just telling from a competitive analysis that we're actually the first in the market. We're developing the market, so there is no direct competitors. And our revenue, by the way, we bootstrap this company. We have not taken any investment. And so we're already bringing in revenue. The end of this fiscal year, 2022, we will make $250,000. And if we were to do an incremental increase of onboarding customers, then by the year 2025, this chair's in the way, you could see that we will acquire $2.9 million revenue profit into the company. And with traction, so not only do we have external customers building their products, we also develop our own IP technology. So here, over there at the upper left is HoloTriage. HoloTriage is a winning product we developed for, under the Microsoft HoloLens, where it actually trains the individual in basic life support, advanced life support. And then right now, this is the future that I would like to see in Mars in a decade or so. And that is the Medinaut. The Medinaut concept technology is the flying Da Vinci telerobotic surgeon that one day you will see flying on Mars and being able to actually do real-time surgery to do triaging on the surface of the planet. Of course, finally, we have been recognized over the years. We've done multiple publications. We've also presented, and for the last few years, we've been accepted into the International Astronautical Congress. This year, no exception. We had 2 abstracts accepted. It's actually those 2 products that we will present in Paris. So we're very excited with that. And thank you so much. We're Avatar Medic, impacting and saving lives. Questions?
Thank you, Susan. We have time for one question.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about the business model? Because I'm not sure I fully understand that.
Right.
So what is unique in your business model than just taking like other?
Oh, yeah. So well, our business model is basically that we are B2B and B2C. So business to business and business to corporate. And we're coming in as multiple roles, depending on what your need is. So we can come in as consultants, strategic planning. We can come in as principal investigators to design your research project, to also help conduct, validate, do rapid prototyping, build an MVP and take it into market. And once you're in the market, we can find a fit, and also how do you scale up and get more funding and so on and so forth. So that is right now what our business model is for the company.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Nicholas Trexell, Stella Wearables.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas. I'm the founder of Stella. We've partaken in a few programs. Evo Next is here in Southern California, as well as Johnson & Johnson J Labs in La Jolla. Our focus is in optimizing UV radiation with humans, right? It's all about a balance. Too much UV radiation causes a problem, right? Leading to skin damage and skin cancer. UV underexposure affects serotonin levels as well as vitamin D. So imagine if we had a solution around UV optimization that could help individuals based on their skin types on the Fitzpatrick scale, if we want to get it on the medical side, to balance their UV exposure. So how does the solution look like? Well, by using UV sensors detecting UV, A, B, and C rays, we can basically personalize that data that's collected through the sensor based on the biology of the human, right? And this, in this sense, is their skin type. We've created a wearable, as you can see here, that has quartz glass covering the sensor, but as soon as it's allocated and aimed at the sun, it will detect the UV radiation level and then how much time the user has until he or she is overexposed to UV radiation. It's a completely personalized solution. It's very simple. We have a wearable with a built-in sensor accompanied by the mobile app, which displays the data. A user will basically create their profile, connect it via BLE, low energy Bluetooth, onto their mobile device. And then they will be able to see their burn rate, how much time they have left in the sun, how much UV intake they had. And this information is very valuable to a different set of groups. Our market that we're focusing on right now is the sun protection market. As you can see, the market for health tech is fairly large. This is just kind of a niche perspective in regards to our kind of area of expertise. But what makes Stella very unique is that we're the only sun optimization wearable out here. And we really do focus not just on skin health, but as well as overall wellness. Like I said, UV radiation affects all life, right? Including us. And it's not just from the physical side of things, it's also on the mental side of things. Currently, our product is set to be sold for $99. There's other technology that Stella has been focused on developing around machine learning, coughing, sneezing detection, heat stroke detection. But our main focus right now is on the UV optimization technology because we recently got our utility patent granted and we want to take advantage of that. Initially, we will be starting off on a B2C model, selling directly to consumers. Later on, we will be distributing this technology to other businesses. When I was a part of J&J, I realized that this technology is not just for the market that I'm trying to serve. There's also a lot of people doing clinical trials around big pharma and therapeutics, and they could really benefit off the data that we're collecting in regards to what and how UV exposure affects their patients. Our B2C prospects are men and women around in the Sun Belt region that are initially going to be the main market that we're dealing with in regards with people that are really being overexposed to UV radiation. Sun Belt region here or New Zealand or Australia where skin cancer is a big problem. Some of the psychographics in regards to the people that would be interested in this technology are people that are keen on understanding the dangers of overexposure to UV radiation, but also the benefits of actually going outside for 30 minutes a day, getting that vitamin D, as well as increasing your serotonin levels. Our B2B prospects initially are going to be here on Earth. Maybe later in the future we can expand, but dermatologists are a big market for us. Individuals that are basically going laser treatments cannot go outside and be overexposed to UV radiation due to the scarring that can happen. Therapists that are treating people with mental health disorders, one of the first things that they should be doing is making sure that the individual is going outside, getting that natural sunlight, making sure they got some balance in regards to the vitamin B and their serotonin. Lastly, our direct unit sales in regards to licensing is something that's very unique to us. We plan on having an OEM model so that we can package our technology and give it to other organizations so they can take advantage of that technology with the distribution network. Right now, there's not much competition. Yeah, we have wearables like Whoop and Apple. The closest competitor that we have is La Roche-Posay. Great company, but unfortunately, there's no data being collected. It's not personalized. And typically in I know it's kind of subjective, but the design's kind of poor. So the usage case scenario has pretty much been diminished, and it doesn't really hold the strong value proposition. Initially, we will be launching through our website and pushing unit sales. I'm going to be leveraging two organizations that I've been working with very closely, J-Labs as well as LaunchBoom, to set this off on a B2C market. And then after that, and having some validation and traction, we will then go and work with our CM to make sure that we can facilitate this for B2B distribution. I'm the founder of the company. My experience has been working in hardware and software development for the last decade. I work with drones. I'm a big fan of embedded systems. So that's kind of why I got, that's why I chose a IoT startup. For those who don't know, IoT is a little bit difficult because every iteration, of a prototype is extremely expensive. So it's not just correcting the software line of code, it's really testing out the embedded systems, the usage case scenarios, and the durability of the product. Operations is managed by Mike Bin. He's a VC veteran. He's worked with Apple, Lyft, Amazon, Google, all these IoT companies. So he's kind of like my mentor in all of this, and he's been kind of guiding me. Dr. Hostagger helps me out with strategy. He's a great team player. He worked at Logic PD, which is a product lifecycle company, and he's been kind of my father in business, and we've been kind of developing this technology together. We've been outsourcing a lot of the development to third parties in regards to the engineering.
That is time. You've used up all 7 minutes, so we actually have to go on to the next. Thank you so much. So now we are actually switching over to our virtual participants. First up, we have Gil Travish, founder and CEO of Vibo Health.
I think you changed the order. Would you like me to go first?
Zayed Taib, founder of Mylan H. Birch. I'm so sorry, I mixed up the order.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so can I start? Hello. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Zayed Taib, and I'm here today to present our company, Mylan H. So it all started for me after my mother was late-stage diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a very tough brain disease. Unfortunately, when she turned around, she couldn't find any solution that would help her and her doctor manage the disease progression or assess treatment effectiveness at home without undergoing lengthy, expensive, and inaccessible MRI scans. Regrettably, her doctor prescribed 3 wrong treatments. They were inadequate for her situation, and this led her to being fully disabled and unable to walk anymore. On that basis, we decided to start Mylan H, whose primary mission is not just to help these 2.8 MS patients receive the right treatment at the right time under the right circumstances, and therefore prevent disease progression, but help biopharma companies and hospitals monitor and treat neurological diseases at home, and more importantly, contribute to the drug discovery process. So in terms of the technology, we've developed a groundbreaking software technology combined with a wearable sensor, which is capable of capturing EEG, EMG, ECG, and EOG in less than a minute, gel-free. And then we're using our designed cognitive games, our machine learning engine. By the way, it's neuromorphic computing, which is a bit ahead of the curve compared to machine learning, is capable of detecting specific patterns in the brain and then translating them into powerful digital biomarkers for doctors and biopharma companies to understand in real time what's happening in the brain. Now, given our technical backgrounds and beyond the healthcare application, we've come to realize that there is another application in the space sector whereby the same technology, the same wireless 1 minute gel-free sensor alongside the machine learning software and the cognitive games, we can remotely monitor astronauts' brain activities while being in outer space, but more importantly, we can also train them to enhance their cognitive capabilities using what we call neurofeedback. And also, we are aiming to use this technology to contribute to developing an autonomous instruction system for these astronauts, sleep schedule, exercise intensity, and so on and so forth. In terms of the team, it's myself. I hold a PhD in neuroscience and neurotechnology from the Technical University of Munich. I'm also an assistant professor of AI and digital health in Manchester, probably the youngest assistant professor in Manchester. My second co-founder, she holds 2 master's degrees, one in applied mathematics and AI, whereas the second one is in space technology. And our third co-founder, he has more than 20 years of experience under his belt in business and finance. We are also proud to have a couple of medical advisors from the NHS in the UK, as well as from Germany, supporting us on this journey. So in terms of where we are and what we've achieved so far, product-wise, the technology is being deployed in clinical trials as we speak in Rome, and it has shown promising results. Our sensor is CE marked Class 2A and FDA cleared 510K. In terms of business, we are particularly proud that we've been able to acquire 3 different customers, 3 university hospitals, within the first year of operation, generating a turnover of 100K. We also have 2 letters of interest from Langone Medical Center in New York City and from Helios Park Clinic in Germany, which is one of the largest in the country. In terms of finance, we've been relying on our own resources and bootstrapping, but we have nonetheless raised equity investment of 100K from IMEC iStart Venture Fund, as well as from business angels. And we've been able to receive around 300K of non-dilutive innovation grants and support from acceleration programs. Our science has been published in more than 10 peer-reviewed papers, including 2 Nature scientific reports published last year. Last thing we are particularly proud of is being selected as one of the top 10 most innovative companies in 2019 by NASA iTech program. So to summarize, using the same brain-computer interface technology, which I basically developed during my PhD, we've been able to develop 3 different software products. So the first one, which we try to call this the Swiss Army knife, it could be integrated into any clinical trials, whose name is Body Mirror, is designed for hospitals and biopharma companies to interpret clinical trials data and help them accelerate those trials, as well as through the drug discovery process. Our second product, which is specifically primarily designed for multiple sclerosis patients, where the idea is to get it through the reimbursement system, as we are kind of marching towards digital solutions being reimbursed. And the main idea is, or the intended purpose, is to be used to monitor disease progression and assess treatment effectiveness at home. And with your support, we are aiming to launch our third product, where we are trying to take this technology from Earth and then take it to outer space and monitor astronauts while being in orbit, specifically as we are marching towards sustainable human presence on the moon and on Mars. So this is me, and I'm done speaking. Thanks for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Saeed. The floor is open to judges for a question.
Yes, good presentation. Thank you. What kind of technological consideration is needed to bring your product into space?
I think so far from what we've tested, the technology works pretty well, specifically in clinical trials. We have only tested it with MS, to be honest, so we haven't really tested it with a wide range of brain diseases. I think we would need to test the hardware itself. I mean, it's a wireless system. We need to understand whether it will work. Obviously EEG is a very noisy signal, so you need to understand or kind of evaluate the robustness and reliability of the hardware. And so far, it's just still, pie in the sky. So we haven't tested anything in microgravity. We don't know how the hardware would work, but I think we are confident from a software perspective that things are working properly. So contingent on the hardware working with no issues in microgravity, I think we are confident that we can take the solution, off the shelf directly to space.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Gil Travish, founder and CEO of Vibo Health. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Great. I'm Gil Travish. We're Vibo Health, and we do smart health tracking. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you just what that means and what the connection to space is. I'm happy that we're incubated at Magnify here at UCLA, and we're supported by the European Space Agency. What we're doing is filling a gap in our ability to know how we're doing health-wise. Currently, consumers have a wide range of options in the form of wearables and other devices, and these offer continuous information, but they're based on simplistic sensors, surface measurements, mostly activity and vital signs. At the other end of things, we can go to the clinic and have deeper analysis, lab tests, et cetera, but these are costly, invasive, can be painful as well. What we do is measure 20 metabolites, give everyone an updated information, and give early warning signs. What we're doing technologically is taking magnetic resonance spectroscopy, which is the sister technology to magnetic resonance imaging that you might be familiar with. MRS is proven in the clinic and is used regularly. However, these machines are complex, large, and expensive. And what we're doing is democratizing that into a tabletop system, which is considerably simpler, uses a scan of the finger, is quick, is non-invasive, and gives the results without any incremental cost. So let's take an example. Here I'm looking at diabetes, and we can look at the glucose and glycosis metabolites to give people an early indication of how they're doing and continuously monitor that. I should mention that this data is taken by others and is measured in vitro, but it is of a similar nature, and that spectrum is produced simultaneously. The user, of course, receives a very simple result on a dashboard with a simple health score. The most important thing is that we produce actionable information and can guide the user to what to do. We are already space tech in the sense that our technology is licensed from the European Space Agency, satellite technology for antenna design, which we brought down to Earth to do a phased array for sensing. That now is going to be used for fitness and general tracking, and we hope to bring that back up to space for astronaut and even space tourist tracking. Currently, as you know, the available tools are quite cumbersome and there's a limited amount of data. And we hope that with our system, we can go much deeper and quicker. This can be done throughout the mission before the mission and after the mission, and provides local and remote monitoring without the need for consumables and chemicals. Since we are a consumer-facing company, I should mention that in terms of those different devices that consumers can use, whether it's the Apple Watch or the blood pressure station or a blood test, when compared in speed, accuracy, cost per use, and most importantly, causal connection to a health state, we of course come out ahead. But also, we are not displacing these; we're supplementing them. Our team consists of myself. I have a background in physics from UCLA. This is a second spin out from UCLA. Adaptix is an imaging company that's ongoing. My co-founder is an IP attorney. Ron Stone, our CFO, is currently attending live, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there. And we also have a great advisory board with Professor Christoph, also from UCLA. Our business model is quite straightforward. It's a B2B2C. So our customers are the host sites, be it pharmacies, gyms, or other high traffic areas. They provide revenues in the form of site fees, and there are other revenue streams. And the end user is their customer. So in summary, we believe we're producing the first true smart health tracking device. We see space health application with astronaut health monitoring. We think this will have a tremendous impact through predictive and preventative healthcare. There's lots of early revenue and proof points available from fitness and performance. This is IP rich. Since I wrote this, we filed a second patent. So we have two filed patents, two licensed patents, and multiple inventions ready to go. And we see significant revenues within 5 years. We're of course raising money and ever will be. And with your help, we hope to bring this to space. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gil. The floor is open for judges.
One technical question. So what's the magnetic field strength?
Sure. We use permanent magnets. We're targeting a 2 Tesla field. And just for the others, the signal strength is linearly proportional to the magnetic field.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gil.
Thank you.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, Syncell Bio is not pitching today. So moving on, we have Wendy Lamon, co-founder of Holoxica.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Hello from Scotland. My name is Wendy Lamine. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Holoxica, which is a holographic 3D visualization company with several medical visualization world firsts. And I'm going to take you for 5 minutes on a mini journey from tele to holomedicine, from 2D land to 3D land. Now, what's a problem that we are trying to solve? It's how to help astronauts help themselves during a medical emergency on a mission. How can multiple astronauts communicate with a medical team on Earth? And you may recognize a picture here on the left. It's NASA flight surgeon Joseph Schmidt, who was speaking with an astronaut on the ISS who was wearing the Microsoft holoportation, but it's only that single astronaut that could actually see him. So what's the solution that we are proposing? It's the world's first end-to-end interoperable, integrated, holistic holomedicine. So basically on the right-hand side in that yellow picture, you see a doctor speaking to a patient with 3D video conferencing without the need for goggles or headsets, so completely with the naked eye. And that's the idea for the entire astronaut team to being able to speak with the entire medical team on Earth without having to wear goggles or headsets, so all with the naked eye, all simultaneously. In that same 3D video conferencing call between the astronauts on the ISS or anywhere on space mission and the team on Earth. The team on Earth would be able to pull up a medical animation to help the astronauts for the patient education. So that would be 3D medical visualization on anatomy, medical conditions, and surgery. In that same 3D video call, the team on Earth would also be able to pull up the medical scan of any of the astronauts in 3D. So this technology, the software HoloSlicer, translates any DICOM data automatically in 3D. So what is now a concrete example here? On the left-hand side, you see the current status of affairs. You see the very first hand scan that was taken by Mr. Röntgen in 1895 of his wife's hand. On the right-hand side in black, you see my hand. So that's the current state of affairs. It's all a 2D experience still, often in black and white. On the right-hand side, you see the Holoxica holomedicine solution, meaning astronauts talking in natural 3D with the team on Earth. There's now also portable 3D scanners. So let's say that an astronaut breaks a hand. The scan could be taken in 3D and the images immediately shared with Earth so that the other astronauts know what to do. Same time, in that same 3D video conferencing call, the team on Earth, the medical team, could pull up a medical animation to point out the intricacies of what needs to be done to help that astronaut. So what is this innovation? So it is a holistic way of integrating three different software suites, meaning 3D video conferencing, if you like, medical education, patient education, as well as 3D scans, and all of this with off-the-shelf components. So we see this as a way to democratize, digitize, and humanize healthcare communications and care in 3D. What's the competition like? On the left-hand side, you see telemedicine companies you probably all recognize, especially the US one. It's all still about 2D video conferencing. If you look at telepresence companies, those are often about optical illusions or high-res 2D scans. And you've got our classics, the AR, VR world with Microsoft Holoportation that they have already used in space, but for which you need to wear the headsets and the goggles. McKinsey has already looked at this virtual care market, this virtual healthcare, and they are looked at an opportunity of nearly $250 billion US. What's the team like? Well, here you can see we've got PhDs, we've got a bit of everything. In total, this team has been around for 12 years. We've worked on several projects with the DASA, which is equivalent of the US DARPA, on several defense projects. The one we worked on this year is about human digital twins, which would also have really interesting applications for the project that we're suggesting, but we're not allowed to talk about it for now. As said, we've got several world firsts in 3D medical visualization. For instance, the very first brain fiber hologram made from an fMRI, or the very first liver hologram made from a CT scan. We also did the very first 5G to 5G 3D video chat during the climate change conference in Glasgow, the COP26 last year. What's our business model? It's a B2B business model with hardware and software. It's enterprise hardware, enterprise software, consumer software, and hardware. A typical solution with a hospital would be around 90K, which would be divided in 30K hardware and 60K software. Now, what are we needing to integrate the three different softwares? We're looking at £2 million. We need more engineers to integrate them all. We also need marketing and sales to scale up the system, but also doing some regulatory approval submission. So basically, we're looking to move from development to deployment, not only on Earth, but also in space. And that's me, that's Holoxica. Feel free to shoot any questions. Thank you for your attention.
We have time for one question. Okay, thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you.
That concludes the pitch portion of today's activities. And now we will view a video from Francois Chopard, CEO of Starburst Aerospace.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining, or good morning, good evening, good night for the ones with us remotely. I've always believed in space as a hub for more experiments and for making Earth a better place to live. 5 years ago, I remember we were already talking about manufacturing in space. At that time, it was more 3D manufacturing. We were talking about fiber optics, maybe some semiconductors, but it was still very hypothetical. I remember my good friend Jason Dunn at Made in Space was very inspirational, and his talks, his TED discussion were very exciting. I'm happy to see that there we've made much more progress. He's now starting a new venture in which we have invested through our funds and doing a reusable vehicle to be able to manufacture and do more experiments in space at a cheaper cost, of course. But now, talking about what can we develop in space, whether it's new type of cells, new type of molecules, plants, medicines directly, that will benefit us on Earth in the near future. Again, that's an amazing topic. I'm glad Boryong is supporting it and having the visionary leader to invest early on and be at the forefront of that topic. It's also very exciting. So again, thank you very much. And I can't wait to catch up with you in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite to the stage Jack Lim, Boryong, head of the new portfolio investment team.
Good evening, everyone. It's been such a long day, isn't it? Thank you for being here today. My name is Jack Lim, head of new portfolio investment at Boryong, and I've been leading Carrying Space initiative almost from the beginning. I believe today is a historically remarkable moment that we show the Carrying Space to the world with great work, idea, and the team, people all together. So on behalf of our organization, I would like to express my big gratitude to everyone, contestants, judges, panelists, speaker. Thanks for being here today. Thank you so much. It's been quite a long journey since we came up with our Carrying Space initiative from Jay's great big vision. I was purely impressed by the vision, and that made me literally come this far. Of course, making a great vision into great reality was not easy in the beginning. So most of the time we spending very basic research or some reckless conversation with many different experts, but we have a great vision, and that made us connect with such a different people, and that's how we came here so far. So we are only trying to make the vision to reality, but I believe these people will start to change the future. And I know space healthcare sector is very rare. We're continuously looking for many different applications for connecting the dots. So this is only the beginning of our story. We will continuously a go-to partner for space healthcare sector as a Boryong. Thank you all very much. I hope you have a great the rest of the evening. Thank you. And to close that, one last thing. I would like to thank our Starburst team. They've been supporting our Carrying Space initiative with such a hard work. If you guys don't mind, I would like to bring Starburst Managing Director Elizabeth on the stage.
Thank you, Jack. I won't take much time. It really is such an honor to be here with all of you guys today. As we've heard, and as you know, we have a lot of work to do, but I am so optimistic for the future and the solutions that we're going to find to some of these challenges in these coming years. Thank you to everybody. And let's go chat. Let's go celebrate. Please join us on the terrace upstairs. There's an opportunity to ask follow-on questions for everybody who's presented. And thank you again, Jack, Jay, Boryong. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
That concludes the scheduled portion of our activities today. Please join us in the Centennial Terrace on the third floor.